The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this particular episode is our Book of Boba Fett report. We are reporting on Chapter 6, and my goodness, there is so much to report. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok, and man, what can you do? Just sit down, let's strap in, and let's go for a ride all around the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, I want half of this podcast to be you and I just closing our eyes and meditating. That's how I want to celebrate this amazing episode.
Yeah, and amazing indeed. Let me just start right there. Amazing indeed.
Yeah, amazing on multiple levels. There's so much to talk about, so we are going to dive in. We're having so much fun discussing this great show, The Book of Boba Fett. We're on Chapter 6, which is entitled From the Desert Comes a Stranger. It is written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. It is directed by Dave Filoni. It is about 44 minutes or so of actual sweet, sweet story. We like to set the scene, really celebrate the fact that we are taking this in as fans. Ken, did you watch it midnight with your partner again?
I did. Watching, and is it an ampersand or is it actually and between them? I'm so curious about, did they sit down together? Or because ampersand in screenwriting terms is connected. They sat at a table, and means different rooms, so to speak.
Means somebody probably lost a job, maybe got a job again. Yeah.
Sorry, not to get inside baseball. I was fascinated by that, thinking about that. Yes, midnight, and did a pretty good job isolating myself. I started to, and look, the world's been, the last couple of years, it's just been a tough time. We all deserve joy. So I'm not suggesting anyone who got super, super excited about what they were about to see did anything wrong, because that was me too. But I saw a couple of people trying to own it in terms of scoop clout. And I heard. And I started getting a little, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be careful and protect myself, because we could do that. We could be like, did you hear Jesus is coming back at midnight? And then it's knock on the door and it's an Amazon guy with a load of cash. And you're like, but they said Jesus was coming. And you just get, you just build yourself up. So I pulled back from that for the last 2 hours. I just I'm putting the phone away. I'm not going to engage in that. And then I think I just, like a lot of folks, were just kind of rewarded, because it just was a check. And it was so fun to experience it that way at midnight.
Yeah. I've been having my ritual of, I have a nice evening with my wife, and then it is time for her to go to bed. She bought me a Boba Fett shirt for the holidays, so I remember to put on my Boba Fett shirt to watch the Boba Fett show. And now it's become a ritual with my wife, where when she heads to bed, I'll try not to be too loud if anything's too exciting. She's like, no, please scream as loud as you want.
Pick up the neighbors.
So yeah, there were some screams, some whimpers of joy and sadness. Definitely did some whimpering during this episode. Yeah. But I've also been having fun with my action figures. I love my action figures so much. I've been talking about every episode that I've been pulling out a couple different Boba Fett action figures that I have, and setting them up like they can watch the television too. And then last week, halfway through, I was like, I got to turn around Mando. And this week I had faith. I turned around Boba Fett, I turned around Mandu, I turned around Grogu, and I turned around Luke. So they were all ready to watch. I just needed to move Ahsoka over. I really should have done that, and I didn't.
Yeah.
So it's fun to go through this. We're going to discuss the big debate of, it's called Book of Boba Fett, but it is clearly branching out into other characters' interconnected journeys. And for me, it's been a fun, strange ritual to sort of experience and accept that through action figures.
I love that. It's the full collection there. I had some thoughts on that. I had some thoughts on that idea, and it's a good thought. It's a good question of, hey, but why is this title, this and that? But that's why we're here to analyze it. I think it all flows nicely. And this episode was just a lot of fun to sit back and look. I don't do like reaction content. We don't do that here at ForceCenter. I think it's quite atrocious content, to be honest. But here are my quotes from my reaction, Joseph. Huh? Really? And she's there too. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's even cuter. Oh, wow. They're doing it. That was kind of my journey through this whole episode. It was magical. It was magical in the best of ways. And a true Clone Wars episode. Like, I'm starting to realize Clone Wars styles of episodes and all the things that are packed in there, the emotional canon more than anything. It might be some of the more enjoyable Star Wars content for me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're saying a lot of great things that I want to dive into. So let's get into our overall reactions. I mean, I think for me, when I say whimpers, I definitely did some woos because I was like, oh, great, this is expected. This is expected.
Mhm.
Um, I will be honest, I did spend like about a half an hour before the actual show, like about 11:30, going like, all right, well, I've seen on social media, totally confirmed that this is a Filoni episode. It's like, what does that mean? And I did start thinking. I think that might mean Ahsoka because I could see how she might, weave
Mhm.
into this. So that was like a fun thrill, a fun pop. That yep, absolutely,
Yeah.
Ahsoka's there, and what does that mean? But then, like when I say whimpers, the moments with Luke and Grogu that were like so beautiful
Mm.
that they affected me on a deep level.
Yeah.
And then the moments of terror with what's going on in Tatooine and like just like the actual sadness in a good way because I'm emotionally affected by the show. Like
Yeah.
that's why I say whimpers of joy and whimpers of sadness.
Diary of a Whimper over here, and I love. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It was a lot packed in, and at one point, we always it was about 46 minutes, 48 minutes with credits or whatever. And at one point, I pressed pause when we need to get some extra snacks from the fridge. This is a midnight snack show here, and I noticed there was like still 20 minutes left, and I was like, "Oh, that's good. Okay, good. I was afraid it was going to be 5 when I pressed pause."
Right? It feels like you have already had so much. How could there possibly be more?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's one of my big picture reactions to the episode, but also to the way Star Wars television is developing, the way this sort of shared Mandoverse of
mhm,
interconnected shows is developing is just no holds barred, right?
yeah,
Um, there doesn't seem to be anything that's like let's not that's too sacred, let's not play with
mhm,
that, right?
mhm,
The technology seems to be moving forward. There just really seems to be this overall spirit which I think is very George Lucas of not going like, well, why, but why not? If these
yeah,
ideas connect, if they spark joy,
yeah.
if they interconnect in thematic ways, then why not? Just no holds barred. I think that was my big takeaway.
Yeah. This is it's fun on the surface, and it's fun on with the depth that they're getting into on some of the stuff. The themes that we're going to discuss, but the lessons of attachment. It's so in your face. It's fun to explore, and then just the big why not. And I think I don't I time definitely over the years I wouldn't call myself a precious Star Wars fan who holds on to the sacred cows too long. But sometimes it's weird. I had that thought of while I was watching this. I was like, wait, this is all right. This is a TV show. Could something like this have happen in a movie? And I don't really think 5 years ago you couldn't have done this. The tech clearly is leaps and bounds of ahead of where it was even last year, right? So, and they're finding the ways to do it. And I just think, now that you do this more and more, we're going to praise a lot of the tech around Luke, I'm sure. But I got to tell you, I think the Cad Bane tech was even better. It looked, it felt, and it just gave you shivers. So all of it, if you can do it, let's try it.
Yeah, no, Luke did a great big force leap far away from the uncanny valley for me, like
Mhm.
huge advancement. And then on the other side of it, so like to me, this episode had a kind of a vibe of two halves, the same way last week did, with
Yeah.
the kind of the armor and Pelly being these two contrasting figures. And this week felt the same way in lots of different ways of these kind of twin stories, but in terms of like the technology
Mhm.
of how can we present these things? Is it physically possible? Like
Yeah.
Luke was so far from me from the uncanny valley that I just felt all the peace and the purpose and the kindness and the warmth. And then I will never look at Cad Bane again without whispering to myself nightmare fuel. Like, right? I had to like go like, right, this is for kids.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
any child watching this, I think, is going to have nightmares. I didn't say any, but you know what I mean. Like the contrast between them, that they're both executed so well, and one brought such warmth and humanity, and one made me just want to nuke him from orbit to be safe because he's so terrifying. Was fascinating.
Yeah, so good. The mouth. I kept calling him the space mouth of Sauron. Just wonderful stuff. Yeah, I just love and I know a lot of practical. I do want to see the magic of how they pulled that off. But they pulled it off, and that was the
Oh
thing.
yeah.
They pulled it off.
Yeah, they very, very much will. I do want to just directly address. We talked about it a little bit last week when you had the surprise that that last week was a real Din Djarin interlude. We talked a lot about how we thought the journey that both Din and Boba Fett were connected, how it was continuing to build up this idea that the people of Tatooine have intrinsic value, so that it is really connected to the overall show. How did you feel this week that we had these sort of twin stories, but still a very little Boba Fett?
I really okay with it, but I start from the point of I like I said last week, I do miss Boba Fett, like Boba Fett, Tamora Morrison, Boba Fett. I miss seeing him. I miss seeing him on the screen. So I get it, and I get the questions. I think it's one of those. Why is it called Book of Boba Fett? And we've barely seen him. I've seen some wonderful jokes. Y'all got wonderful jokes out there about Boba Fett and everything. Just great, Hit the stage. But here's where I land on it at the end of the day, Joseph. We're gonna. Thematically, not only does it connect, it all flows into what will be the finale. And it's all part of the Book of Boba Fett. All of this is flowing into what we believe will be this final stand or this next chapter. I think it flows nicely, and there's valuable lessons along the way that are taking from what we've already learned in the first 4 chapters and continuing it without a doubt. But beyond that, and this is sometimes Ken gets grumpy. It's like I sit down at a bar and someone's over there going, why is it called Book of Boba Fett? And I just go, here's a drink from the Weequay. This is Star Wars. And this is not like we tuned into the series finale of Seinfeld and the cast of Friends was there. This is not that. This is Star Wars, and this is the big galaxy, and the emotional canon's there. The threads are there. The lore is there. It's all the same stew. All right. And for me, that's where I really thought that at the end of the episode, because I miss Boba Fett, but it's all working for that. And at the end of the day, when 7 chapters are in your lap, you're not going to worry about that too much. It's all Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I really like this, including your wonderful sitcom analogy. We should maybe shift from making all of our food analogies to making sitcom analogies. Yeah, I think for me, this is really just a engage with what you're presented with. I really understand that people say it was called Book of Boba Fett. I want to read the tin. It says Boba Fett. When I open up the tin, I want to see Boba Fett. I really understand that concern, but for me, it's like, do you want to stay in that place of being frustrated about it, or do you just want to enjoy what's in the tin? And for me, what's in the tin is like $1 million. So I'm not going to complain about the tin that $1 million came in. And what I mean by that is I think the storytelling is great. I think it is absolutely overlapping. I think the journeys that all these characters are going through, Grogu, Cobb Vanth in particular, those are the 2 characters with choices in front of them this episode, but also Ahsoka and Luke and Din, all of their journeys have this great synergy, this great energy, this great poetry with what Boba Fett personally has been going through. And this episode in particular, this was absolutely continuing the story of the show Book of Boba Fett. It's like, Boba Fett is the spine. And then we got to see these other limbs, but there was so much, we'll talk about this when we get into the big themes, but there's so much about the people of Tatooine matter. And that's one of the big ideas that's being developed about the power of the group, that you need a tribe. So it feels to me like on a thematic level, this is absolutely the same show. Different players are taking the stage.
Yeah, it's again, we haven't seen the next chapter, but I've heard, hey, it's like a comic book one-off. It's anthology series. I don't even think that's all accurate. I think that's all part of it, because it is a piece. We're building these pieces. These last 2 weeks are building pieces up. Again, do I miss Boba Fett? Yeah, but I got one hell of a Boba Fett moment. I can't wait to discuss it. And I think it all is all going to come together nicely, because it is pulling from it. It is connecting, and it is there. You just have to connect with that. And again, at the end of the day, you're right. We got a big old heap and clam chowder bowl of space chowder, and don't stop on the surface. Dig in. And I'm saying that mostly to myself. I even going into this week, I was on a stream and some people are like, do you think this will happen? This happen? I was like, I don't know. I kind of just want to go hang out with Boba Fett. That's a form of attachment. And I think this episode has some thoughts on attachment, Joseph.
It most certainly does. It raises some questions and asks us to raise some questions about attachment for sure. I also think this is just a matter of like, look, don't put up again, I get the criticism of it's called Boba Fett. I kind of, a general person might say I want it to be what it says it is, and I get that. But I think you can either this is a your focus determines your reality moment. You can stay focused on that, or you can go, oh, this is clearly what Favreau and Filoni are doing. They have characters who are interconnected in a same era of time, dealing with some similar issues, and their shows are going to overlap, good, bad, or otherwise. That is the truth.
Yeah.
You can't control it, you can't change it. Do you want to embrace it or not? And do you want to ignore all of the wonderful things to concentrate on the negative? For me, that's a big that's a truth. That's what they're doing. It's okay if you like it or don't like it, but accept it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's where I'll take my sip of my space whiskey and leave that conversation.
Excellent. We talked about big picture things. I also want to go back to something you said about it feeling like Clone Wars. Clone Wars absolutely has a spine, I think, beginning and end about Ahsoka's journey, about the clone's journey. But through that, we learn a ton about Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda and Jar Jar, and other characters. So I think that Clone Wars has a spine, but it has lots of limbs. It's got an anthology feeling. When I was watching this and going like, okay, don't worry that it's called Book of Boba Fett, except that this is a part of this Mandoverse, for lack of a better term. In this episode in particular, almost felt to me like definitely watching Clone Wars, but also like watching an episode of Twin Peaks, which is Twin Peaks was structured as a soap opera, or I've in my life watched actual soap operas. This seemed like a serialized story with many overlapping characters. I felt like there were multiple cliffhangers, some that were meant to be answered in the Book of Boba Fett show, and some that will be answered later in other shows with other titles. I felt like the patron saint of this episode was Maz Kanata popping up and going, that's a good question for another time.
Tune in next week. Yeah, I spent several summers watching Guiding Light every day at 2:00. So I'm with you in there. And when I say Clone Wars too, I think you're right. You touched on a lot of the things that it makes it feel like that for me. But doing the Clone Wars report now, the last couple of years here in ForceCenter, just spending more time with those episodes and what they present. It's not just the Filoni of it all. It's the weird, wild Star Wars wonder of it all, of spider droids building a hut, a planet you don't quite know yet. A dusty stranger shows up on a dusty plane, like all those. It's so Clone Wars in the best of ways for me that a few years ago, I've always been a Clone Wars fan. But I had that kind of like, I like the Clone Wars. But I spending so much time with it the last couple of years, it's starting to become some of my, I don't want to say favorite Star Wars content, the most rewarding Star Wars content. And this episode had that feel for me, where I'm still thinking about it, and not the action, but like what it was trying to tell me or ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, it is a little bit of that why not let's play spirit, where like the philosophy, as we analyze the Clone Wars, like the philosophy about big Star Wars ideas, about attachment and war and pacifism and all in the corruption of systems, like all sorts of ideas. The philosophy is very consistent, but then the surface is like, why not? Right? This episode felt like the tradition of Lucas saying, turns out Darth Vader built 3PO because why not? Maul came back and he survived on hate. Why not? Chewie and Yoda are friends. Why not? You know what? Turns out Luke and Leia are siblings. I like that. Let's go. Like, that sense of why not?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Last thing that I really wanted to mention is just like the amazing number of cliffhangers, like this, going back to those roots of Star Wars being an adventure serial. Like if it ended, the Batman 66 show used to have the two-parters. In the first episode would end with like a series of questions of, will Batman and Robin escape this explosive ice cream? And it goes on and on, right? It like I almost imagined a voiceover with like, how did Grogu escape Order 66? Will Cobb Vanth live? Will Luke see Ahsoka again? What will Grogu choose? How did Luke get Yoda's blade? Will Fett rally Tatooine to defeat the Pikes? Who is really responsible for slaughtering the Tuskens? Is it Cad Bane? Like, I just felt like there were so many ideas that were thrown out there for us to be excited about, and I feel like some of them are meant to be answered in this final chapter of the Book of Boba Fett, and some are going to be spiraling out to all these other shows.
The biggest question, you didn't touch on it, Joseph, so we got to discuss it now here. Did Max Rebo survive another explosion, or was he even there?
Yep. Yeah. I was so busy being distraught about that astromech drummer that I did a scrub this morning. It's like, I'm trying to see Max Rebo. I'm running out of time.
There was no clear shot. There was no.
This show has made us Max Rebo conspiracy theorists.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that was literally my first thought. First thought was, oh, Garza. Second thought was Rebo. So
Rebo, get him out of that poor Chad Rafan is extremely effective. We'll talk about it. I keep saying last thing. There are just two things I want to make sure I mention up top. We'll talk so much about Luke, but I wanted to ask you, I was really, really moved by Luke. It was really thrilling for me to see Luke in The Return. I loved seeing him use the power of a Jedi and use the Force, use that lightsaber, to cut down those droids in service of saving someone. But even in The Return, what I was most moved by is here's my Jedi hero who hears a call for a child in need and they come. But this Luke, slowly, tenderly turning over his hand, closing his eyes and gently reopening them exactly the way he does in Return of the Jedi when he lifts 3PO. In some ways, like, that's my power fantasy. That's I don't want to be like, that's my Luke, because that has negative baggage, but that's a part of the Luke that really moves me. And it was so moving. Were you affected by like that side of Luke, the side that's just like, I have massive amounts of power and it can be used in these peaceful, gentle ways?
Yeah. You can't wait to get into it and big questions in front of him, Luke, the character. I love that he's still learning. He's still and always going to be, right. And I'm obsessed with where we end up with it, right, with The Last Jedi of it all. Love that we go there. Love that that's where we get it. And I love spending time with. There's a lot of whimsy, a lot of wonder, a lot of peace in Luke in these moments. And the measure. I mean, this made me think a lot of some of my favorite Luke is that Battlefront 2 level. We've talked about it a lot. On Pilio there, I and it's made me think of that, so whether or not I was tears down my face or not, I had a big smile on my face, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Well, I'm glad that you were smiling.
yeah. Just and I'll tell you, well, but like when he's walking with Grogu and he's lifting him up, other than just cute, it just was like that was a good Luke, man. That was a good spot. That was a good moment.
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe one of my favorite things that I have seen in Star Wars. The Force leap assist. Jeez, I can't even. It's so amazing. So amazing. All right, that's plenty of big picture. Let's get into the details. Let's really talk about the big themes at stake, what ideas were at stake in this episode, and I'm sure we'll inevitably, in the process of discussing that, share a lot of our feelings about how the individual ideas in this chapter relate to this much bigger picture of Book of Boba Fett and the whole Mandoverse. So, Ken, where do you go?
I love this part of the show, by the way. I put the golf ball on the tee, and then Joseph grabs the driver, and we are off onto the course, man. We're playing the back nine. I love this part.
We're whacking.
I'm usually with a sandwich. Here we go. So obviously, like, attachment, right? And I literally put in my notes, but of course, I mean, they say it, this, that, and there's some great stuff. You already mentioned some stuff there about armor, protection. We're going to get to that. And it's kind of this true path to loyalty and solidarity and attachment. But here's where I just kind of listed what I viewed as some of the attachments, and some of the ones that are so obvious. Yeah, I can't wait to explore. Din to Grogu. Yeah, literally, that's like why we're here. But then it's Grogu to Din. Grogu to perhaps his fear. I'm fascinated with the idea of Luke's like, do you want to go home? And Grogu's like, okay. And home is the Jedi Temple during Order 66. This big point of trauma. Because I for a second thought, are we gonna have like a version of Yoda Town?
We're going to see Yoda's planet, Yothon, that we have randomly decided that's what it might be called?
Yeah. No, and he goes, and so he's attached to certain things around that. Obviously, some other ones pop up. But the two two big ones, the idea that, and they flow very nicely into to bigger themes in Star Wars we'll discuss in a second, but Cobb Vanth and Freetown, as we can confirm it's still called and is called now, to their new way of life attached to themselves and how that applies to all of us and how attachment is sometimes viewed, I'm attached to Joseph as a podcast partner. I love that guy. I'm attached to him, but it's not about that. It's not about that attachment. It's beyond that, about, you're attached to your daily routine, attached to your successes, attached to how you approach life, and all that's kind of good. And there's a balance between attachment and contentment that I want to get into, but how that's kind of what Din's asking them. Like, I know I'm asking for a favor. I'm asking you to get involved and be connected, which is a big Star Wars theme. But in this moment, I'm asking you to get over your attachment to what you have now and to accept something forward, to move forward. And that's change and growth. And then plugging in, I broke it down to that level. And then on the other side, Luke has attachments to his ideas of teaching and what he wants. And I think it's a great moment for him to put it's not just him putting the choice of the choices in front of Grogu. That's a choice for Luke. Mm-hmm. You can be my first student. I'm building this thing. Ahsoka says, oh, Grogu's going to be the first student. Luke has a thought. He's attached to the way he thinks this should go. And he's battling that because he feels this thing. He feels this thing in his heart. I don't know his heart's in it. We know that later on in his life, he's going to feel something else about a student in their heart. So I'm just obsessed with attachment as related to those bigger concepts.
I think this is all absolutely great stuff. I think, attachment is such a big theme that I want to dive deep into all the different people who have attachment. And I think how this idea of attachment is built into Grogu's choice about Mandalorian or Jedi. What does the armor symbolize? What does the saber symbolize? How all that stuff interacts. I think for me, when I started thinking about this episode, definitely I want to talk about attachment, defense and armor and what that means. This, need to keep one another safe, your loved ones safe. Everything you're saying about Cobb that I think is so in Freetown, so filters into this idea that's been being built up in Boba Fett so much of the power of the group, and the great Star Wars theme of symbiosis, of what happens to one of us affects the rest. But I felt like kind of all of it was framed by this idea of choice. Like, structurally, I thought the episode kind of had two halves. It had the sort of the peace and the purpose and the resolve of the Jedi planet, and Luke and Grogu and Ahsoka and Din all having their hearts in the right place and trying to find the way forward. And even the music is soft and meditative on the Jedi planet. And then on the other hand, you have war is coming to Tatooine, and they can't stop the war from coming. They can only respond to it. The choice is being made by the Pikes. Yeah. And on the other side, it's horror and fear, and it's ominous. And it's so striking when we leave the Jedi planet and we go back to Tatooine. The music is low and ominous. When you listen with headphones in, there's like a heartbeat to the back of it when Din is landing back on Tatooine. And I feel like these kind of two halves structurally are about choice. The two characters really being presented with choice are Grogu and Cobb Vanth.
Yeah.
Everybody's wrestling with attachment and past trauma and all these things, but it's Grogu and Cobb Vanth who are actively being asked to make a choice in the episode. And I just love the way that is teed up. It's playing on a lot of the storytelling that's already happened in these shows about Ahsoka answering Din's question that the reason that she's okay with Luke training Grogu is exactly what she said in the previous season of take him to Tython, and if he wants help, he will call out. And her just saying, I'm okay with Luke training him because it was Grogu's choice. I don't control the wants of others, which was great. Of course, Luke offers that choice to Grogu. And I think it's such a great evolution of the character of the show that Din doesn't have any transaction with Cobb Vanth. It's even talked about how they're square, so Din doesn't barter. He doesn't threaten. He doesn't trade. He doesn't exchange services. He asks a favor and therefore gives a choice. I love that Din says there's no easy way to ask for a favor. So I feel like, those pillars are Grogu's choice and Cobb Vanth's choice. And I feel like all the other big ideas that you laid out really well that I want to discuss are kind of elements that are used to make these big choices of who we want to be. Because all these symbols, there's these ideas of attachment, there's these ideas of fear and safety, but it comes down to choice. What is Grogu going to choose? What did Cobb Vanth choose? You know?
Yeah, absolutely right. We're with you on that journey. It's some of the bigger things that are prevalent, the attachment and all that stuff are the building blocks that are literally pushing this story into everyone getting this choice and to get involved. I love you're highlighting the Cobb Vanth one because on my second or third viewing, I got up early this morning to watch it again. And again. He's presented with that choice and seems to I'll see what I can do is a pretty weak answer, right? Like a friend asked me, hey, can you come over this weekend? I say, I'll see what I can do. That means I'm not sure. I don't think so. He gives that to Din, but then when Cobb Vanth Cobb Vanth faces down Cad Bane, he has a line in there that to me is a choice. Tatooine ain't for sale. And
yeah.
Yeah, and he pays, at least in this moment, for the choice. Is he alive? Is he dead? There's been some great back and to the left freeze framing of that shot I've already seen. That's great, but,
it's pretty high up. It's pretty high up.
Pretty high up. I don't think Cad Bane misses is one thing for me. Is why I'm putting a little bit my money on dead. But also, until you hear that last breath, hold on. But you know what I mean? So I love that. It's because this whole episode, armor and choice. That's how this starts, right? This whole episode starts with, think it through.
Make a choice.
Make a choice.
I feel like Cobb made a pretty clear choice when he is talking to the wonderfully named character that I want an action figure of, Weequay Bartender. When he says, the Weequay Bartender has that really understandable, like, we've built our community, we've defended it against everything. You got a new scar from something, Cobb. Let's just take care of our own, right? Totally understandable. Yeah. And Cobb says, gather everybody, and when I tell them, we'll see. I feel like that's really clear. Like, I already see the truth of what Din is saying is what happens on one part of Tatooine affects all of us. And I haven't told anybody that I chased off those pikes. And I know Din is right. And I know we need to fight. And I'm going to give that choice to my community. I feel like Cobb has already made the choice. And then he's going to call a meeting to offer it to the community. And that shot of the Weequay Bartender's face, look as Cad Bane left. I think that Weequay Bartender made his effing choice.
Yeah, W. Earl Brown's gonna grab his deadwood guns and head to the floor. Yeah, no, I started to clap because I love that too. It's like he was so clearly withholding information, right? When Din says, the pikes, and he's kind of like, we're good as long as I'm here. In the back of his head, he's like, oh, I can't deny this anymore. And he exactly, get the townsfolk together. But the fact that he doesn't say Freetown's not for sale, Mos Pelgo's not for sale, like he is in the beginning of the episode, right? I mean, it's so clear. This is ours. The rest is Mos Espa. Who the hell knows what goes on in Mos Eisley? This is ours. And now Tatooine, the name Tatooine. And so to follow through, that path of choice at 11. And it's built on the other things. And to go back quickly, just my attachment thing is like I said, we often become attached to what we are and what we've become and hold on to it when opportunities to change come. And that's what I'm saying. This idea that, you have to measure attachment versus commitment. And like you said, it's understandable. Hey, we stood up for ourselves. We're Freetown now. We even have new branding. And
we got t-shirts. We're not giving that up. We made t-shirts.
There's no harm in liking where you are in life, especially if you earned it and they earned it. We've become attached to it. And your ideas of how it all should be, you're putting your fear in front of your feet to me. And I think that was all on display right there with good old W. Earl Brown, the Weequay proprietor, and the whole gang. Beautiful, beautiful stuff there at the choice of Cobb Vanth.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I just want to dive in for a second here on this idea of the power of the group, because I think it has been so set up. I think it relates to what you're talking about. I think it's been so set up by the journey that Boba Fett has gone on. This is one of the big things it's all tied together, right? Yep. That Fett comes out of the Sarlacc broken and alone. He finds community. He learns the value of connection is strength with the Tuskens, and then he has been putting his money in his blaster where his mouth is. Right? He's been building a connection with Fennec, with the Gamorreans, with the Mods, with Chrysanthemum. This goes back to Garce's speech about things, changing. So there's so much about connection, about classic Obi-Wan, symbiont circles. But there's so much also going on within that. In these people building connections is the sort of audacity to build something new. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Empire has fallen, and everything we're seeing is about building the new, right?
Yeah.
Luke's school is literally being built. There's literally that, like, everybody's got that, like, we know this didn't go well before, but let's try to escape the past and let's build something fresh. We got that with Luke's school. We have the imagery of those, to me, ant-like droids
Yeah.
working in harmony to literally build something. We've got Luke's little lesson to Grogu. It's not one frog, it is many frogs in a community, right?
Yep.
Even the frogs are supporting this theme. And then that sense of newness, right? I feel like I love what you're saying about being attached to what they know in Freetown.
Yeah.
But to me, it's also like almost attachment to like what they just built. Like some of their traditions are like, yeah, this is how we survive on this land. We've lived here for a long time. Everybody here knows one each other. Our kids go to the same school. There's all that sort of old. But there's also like, we have reclaimed a sense of identity and power to the point where we've renamed our city, right?
Right.
And that ties into me with like everything about the sanctuary and how sad it was that it was bombed, is that there's that attitude of like, this isn't a dive for a crime to happen, and maybe some payments will be made. It's a gambling establishment. Maybe some retirement funds are being drained, but like to go to Garce's speech about like, this is a new time, you know. I think it's Cobb who says like, you know, this planet has seen enough violence. There's the power of the group, all these people coming together, but it is all sort of in this like, we are trying to build something new, and the bad guys, the Pikes, we're trying to keep it the same as it always was. You know, we've got our criminal empire that runs the way it is, and we're trying to take your town. If everybody's building something new by connecting, right? Din and Cobb coming to this understanding that what happens to one community on Tatooine will happen to them all. You know, the Pikes have hired Cad Bane to isolate people, right?
Yeah.
To say, don't join together. Don't join with Boba Fett. The bad guys are isolation, and the good guys are symbiosis and connection.
Yeah, it's echoing some of our Rise of Skywalker conversations about what you were doesn't necessarily mean that's where you got to stay or what you are now. Even the conversation with Danny Trejo and the Rancor, right? And for Cad Bane to show up, and just a great scene. I gotta say, that's one of my favorite Star Wars scenes in a while. That whole showdown there. But for him, what does he do? What does he do? Oh, do you know the truth about Boba Fett? Do you know who he is? Cold-blooded killer.
He can't change.
He can't change. Can't change. And what are you, Spice Runner? What are you, Stormtrooper? That's a big Star Wars thing. Well, I'm Lando. I'm old. I can't fly. I can't join the fight. Come on. That keeps coming back and again. And I think you're right. Yeah. And I say, like, I'm proud of the people of Freetown. Like it's a fine line, attachment and contentment, but the connecting the big thing and this idea of how do you, I wrote down, how do you protect yourself? And I think you might look more, you were talking even off air about armor, right? Armor comes all the way through this down to, you got the little mithril chainmail and then jokes about armor. I'm a little more careful. You should have saved your armor. How do you protect yourself? And isolationism is not the way in this scenario here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think in some ways it's presenting the idea possibly that, you know, connection and working together is a kind of armor.
Yeah.
That this community of Tatooine needs to face the threat of the Pikes. Do you want to dive into that? This idea of how do you protect yourself?
Yes, you get a lightsaber and armor, and you combine them. I'm saying you combine them. Oh, yes.
Yeah, you got to have both. Yeah, I think this is another thing that just really, to me, connected the choices that Cobb and Grogu are making. It's they are both about armor. Literally, they're both about being defensive. I love that Cobb is, you know, very much presented as the defender of Freetown. Again, you know, fresh scar and all. That's what he does. He defends this town. And when we track back to his previous story, he gave up his armor to defend Freetown, right? That's the deal he made to save the town from the Krayt dragon, right?
Yeah.
And then you can look at that as like, well, that's a selfless act that is for the betterment of everybody, but it personally made Cobb more vulnerable, and now he's been injured and or killed, depending on your opinion in your freeze frame, and even taunted by Cad Bane about it, of you should have never given up your armor. So this idea of armor definitely can protect you, but is it a selfless act to give it up? Is that what's required of you to allow yourself to be vulnerable for the betterment of others?
Yeah, love it there. Also, I wanted to pause here. Wikipedia calls Cobb Vanth an elderly man who confronts the Pikes. Can we please, someone change that? At the time of this recording, get in there and change that.
A healthy, strapping, middle-aged man
Yeah.
who just rocks the color red. I'm going to enter Wikipedia and change that.
Yeah, the Pikes are confronted by a man who rocks the color red. We need that on the Wikipedia. Shout out to love the work of Wikipedia and their editors.
And just in case anybody is screaming at the podcast, when you listen with the subtitles on, the townspeople are yelling, is he breathing? Get a stim pack, get stims, get a med pack, get him inside. I feel like that is to say, like, he's at least going to live long enough to have a death scene.
Yeah. Oh, I did. Okay. I didn't. Is that what they actually said? Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I'm going to take some of my money off of dead. I'll slide some of it over to injured. And then you can see it real. Anyway, sorry. I sidetracked the conversation a little bit about what you're saying there, but Cad Bane and the armor and how you get there. And again, I feel like I don't want to feel like I attack the people of Freetown. Like they're like, nah, we're not changing. Like they've earned it. They've earned this. But it's such a vulnerable state when you have Cobb Vanth saying, as long as I'm here, it's good. And then, well, oopsie, I'm not here right now. So,
the new guy's dead.
And the new guy's dead.
I think pretty for sure. Nobody even checks on him.
No one's checked on him. Shout out to the stunt coordinator, by the way. This show is employing, putting more stunt people in front of the camera, and I love it. I'm here for it. So yeah, great stuff on that side there too, and how it just this theme of armor and Luke saying it too, right? This galaxy is a dangerous place, Grogu. I will teach you to protect yourself.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I thought was so great, and why this, I might be frustrated. It's like it's called Book of Boba Fett, and now there's just like a sub story where Dengar gets a random bounty. But that's not what's going on. These are so connected. Luke's stated motivation to help Grogu is to teach him to defend himself. He said that in the rescue. He made that clear again in this. I will teach you to protect yourself. As you just saw, we see Grogu's Order 66 trauma that feels to me like his memory of it is he was being defended, and the armor that was those other Jedi fell, and he's living in that moment of feeling armorless and feeling something coming at him. We'll obviously see the rest of the story, but in terms of just kind of the emotional impact of that memory is about being armorless, right? Din, we'll talk even more about attachment, but on a practical level, it just kind of can't bear the thought of Grogu being in danger, and saying, I just want to make sure he's safe. It feels like it's about attachment. It's about tradition. It's about what Grogu's cultural right is, but it's also just about put this on him in case a blaster bolt comes his way, right?
Please.
Yeah, and even Ahsoka reflects this, that great line of, there is no place in the galaxy more safe than here with Luke. And Din saying, well, either way, this armor will protect him. There's just a lot of focus on protecting Grogu. Is he vulnerable or not? I also feel like this protection in defense and armor idea, it ties back to Boba Fett. The goal of Fett and friends is to protect the planet, protect the people from the Pikes. We got that from Pelimoto, that the people are being literally terrorized. I think there's definitely we don't want everybody hopped up on spice. I think that is definitely running through here. The fact that we start the episode with the previously on that has Fett saying, your establishment will be fine under my watchful eye, and then no, it's not. There's a failure to protect there. So I think it raises all these great questions about the idea of armor, of is armor protection and defense, which seems practical, and you can look at poor Cobb Vanth getting shot and going, if you had armor, great. Or is there some element of it that is hiding, that it is closing yourself off from risk, maybe physical risk, but certainly emotional risk and connection? When the episode is this much about armor and choosing it or not, or what happens when you lose it, the fact that Din and Grogu's relationship has been formed by Din being willing to take his helmet off just to connect, just to feel Grogu's hand on his cheek. And this whole story of Boba Fett, he's come back to his armor, but the journey he went on is he lost this armor. He felt vulnerable. He felt stripped down to just the core of what he is. And that journey brought him connection with the Tuscans in this lesson of connection that's rippling out. So is there an idea that losing armor is terrifying, but maybe necessary for growth?
Absolutely. And being more careful, whatever Cobb's Van's line is. Yeah, everything you're saying is wonderful because I think this goes back to the question of why is this the Book of Boba Fett? And I think if and I don't claim to know John, I do love getting tweets of people who think that they've hung out with John at Cafe 101 and talked about his writing process. I have not, but I think when you're putting together a show and you're like, hey, this is going to end with a confrontation with the Pikes, perhaps. Again, we haven't seen Chapter 7, we don't know, but that's definitely where it's building, right? The storm is coming, and the storm's breaking there. If you're starting with that, like, all right, cool, we get this big final confrontation. It's Boba Fett on the throne fighting for the Pikes for Tatooine, but more so, hey, we want Boba Fett is not here to take Tatooine; he's here to protect it. How do we build to that? And you go back to Chapter 1, and we're building to that, and we're showing everyone's involvement in that and the themes that build upon each other that just flow into this idea. And I think we're going to get even more of that answer next week. And some of these things of how best to protect yourself and how best to protect those around you and how to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really great that Boba Fett has developed this idea that he doesn't want to be leader because there's better food. There's even a joke about that. He doesn't want the trappings. He isn't like, I need a better parking spot for my ship. It is about the leadership that I have experienced is just constant, pointless death. And I want to avoid that. So is the idea for him is like, my armor isn't about me. I want to be the armor that protects this planet. Will we get back to a point of Boba Fett needing to make himself vulnerable in order to save others? I feel like that's where some of these ideas might be building.
Sorry. Yeah. You made me gasp. Sorry, this isn't what you necessarily meant. I still have this thought that Boba Fett's going to die, but that's just me.
I wrote that down to talk about on our next time because I hope he lives. I think that there is a lot of great possibility for him still to explore this Mandalorian side of himself when we're so clearly building to this question of what truly makes a Mandalorian. So I kind of hope I hope, this is not a prediction, this is a hope. I hope he survives and protects Tatooine and hands it to whoever the right leader is, because I don't think he really cares about personally leading Tatooine other than his conviction to protect the people, to maybe give it back to the Tuscans as much as possible, as much as they want. But that would be really interesting for him to say, like, okay, I got this planet into a better place. Now I can maybe be cajoled into doing the same thing for Mandalore or being a part of it, not being the leader, but being a part of that. That's what I hope. But I can also see thematically it building towards, taking off your armor makes you vulnerable, but it's what's necessary for growth.
Yeah. And again, I'm not even saying that as a prediction. I just keep having that thematic thought. I get it. I want, and I think we'll get Boba Fett riding into battle on a Rancor, kicking ass. I think we'll get that. But what is the end of that? What is the purpose of that? What is the why of that? I keep just going back to that. So sorry, you made me go, oh wait, maybe.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I think Cad Bane, I think his he stated his purpose quite clearly of whatever's been going on with him, and we'll talk about it in canon section. He represents the anti-Boba Fett, the don't change. Alex Damon did a really great video a couple of weeks ago, I think now, about the sort of storytelling importance of Cad Bane. Obviously, it's thrilling to see him, but I think Alex is really onto a lot of great thoughts about what kind of conflict that's going to make for Boba Fett when he's faced with somebody who was a mentor who represents not changing.
Yeah. Absolutely. The past and the old way, the cool bounty hunter that strolls into town, the gunslinger, and that ain't Boba Fett anymore. And how many times have we all been there? You go to your old friends and you're like, oh, this ain't me anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it happened to Din last week. I want to talk a little bit more about attachment. Yeah, I think you had some really great thoughts. I want to share some of my thoughts, see if you have any more. Do you have more attachment thoughts?
A little bit about, I wanted to get a little bit more into the Luke stuff. Only that, he's still constantly learning. I love that. I love this about this episode. I love that Ahsoka, and Dave's always going to write Ahsoka strong, and I ain't got no problem with that at all. I like that she's preaching some really good stuff she's preaching the gospel on attachment here. But her interactions with Luke, right? And they're great. And by the way, I mean, we'll talk to, well, in that canon, like, have they had that campfire conversation? They have to.
Yes, we will definitely talk about that.
Put a pin in that one. But I love that Luke is, I'm not saying Luke is fearful and attached here, but just he has that question of, will I see you again? And she's like, perhaps. Now, next time on Ahsoka, maybe we'll pick that thread up later on. Does Luke join for the fight for Thrawn? I don't know. At this point, I don't care. I just love this moment where even she's kind of like, I don't know. I can't answer that. If you want to hang out with me again, maybe we will. Maybe there's something going on. Perhaps. She's flowing. She's flowing with the moment. She's not attached in any way, shape, or form. And I kind of love that, seeing that play in these episodes as she's kind of going around speaking to all our characters who are wrestling with certain kinds of attachment. Because again, my big thing with Luke in this is he's teaching some valuable lessons to Grogu. But again, for him to make that choice, she says, "Go." He says, I don't think his heart's in it. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with him? I don't know. Follow your instincts. Trust your instincts. And so him going, here's your choice. I got this great piece of memorabilia. Everyone wants this memorabilia. Or I got this, something from your past. And you have to choose. Man, it's such a painful choice. But I think a little bit that's Luke letting go of I found this, there was a choice involved with this creature, this character, this person, this being calling me. But now there's another choice to be made, and I have to help with that choice. It's a choice for me, and I that was the side of the attachment conversation I really liked is Luke's thoughts and process over it with it.
Yeah, I really love everything you're saying there. I think Ahsoka is the royalty of compassion, right? She's always, that's what the Clone Wars to me makes really clear, that Ahsoka and Anakin have this great bond of they're both extremely compassionate, but Ahsoka can always find the ways in which she can make it about other people and overcome her fear that will lead to anger, that will lead to hate, and poor Anakin can't. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing a very compassionate Ahsoka, an Ahsoka who is indulging herself in the joy of seeing Anakin's son be this powerful, wise young man. So it's not like she's like some cold fish, right?
No.
But she's very aware of the danger, mm-hmm. of the kind of attachment that doesn't even necessarily lead to the dark side, but leads towards a different life. And I felt like that's a little bit what this was about. It is so framed by the creeds of the Mandalorian and the Jedi, which do overlap. They are about honor. They're about, working toward what your goals are, and, having a masters and leader, mentors and foundlings, mm-hmm. Jedi masters and Padawans, and there is an idea of compassion at the core of both of them. But they're very, very different, and I feel like that's a part of what we're being asked to consider. Like, I think the stuff with Din's attachment is great because it's very traditional. Ahsoka gives him every chance to figure it out for himself, and then just like, Din Djarin, you have watched no Star Wars, so I will spell it out crystal clear. Are you doing this for Grogu, or are you doing this for yourself? The classic compassion is wonderful. Attachment is not inherently bad. But is your need for this other person because you truly care about their well-being, or is it that you need this person the way Anakin stopped thinking about Padme and only was thinking about his need for Padme? He needed Padme to be safe from a fate that maybe wasn't even going to happen. And Din is in a little bit of that same place of like, is he passing on tradition? Is he showing care to just make sure his little guy's okay? Or does he need Grogu to be safe for himself?
I'm so glad you highlighted that line. Are you doing this for Grogu, or are you doing this for yourself? I think that's one of those awooga core of Star Wars. We talk about attachment. I want to deliver this line to my mom, parents, overprotectiveness, all that kind of stuff, which always comes from a good spot. But why are you doing it? And we always focus on the idea attachment has a lot to do, and it does have a lot to do with letting go. But I think a lot of this episode to me is the other side of that, is when you let go, what are you going to gain? And I think that it's a big, big Star Wars, again, awooga. George Lucas logo pops up of what attachment when we're wrestling with attachment. And that line is just so plain and simple.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, is attachment selfless or selfish, right? And not even that you can't find joy, but if it's too selfish, it will become corrupted, right? Yeah. And I think Din's going through a classic, like, Anakin problem of is he going to turn to some kind of violence based on this attachment if it is just selfish. I think that's still up for debate. But what I love about Luke, what Luke's wrestling with in making that good choice to say, I'm going to give Grogu the choice, is Ahsoka raised it in her episode in the first season about we know what happens when people are too attached. So here's that specter of the dark side.
Yep.
But I also think he's just giving Grogu this choice of like, what kind of life do you have? It's almost more like the choice that Qui-Gon and Shmi gave to Anakin in Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
It is, do you want to have this kind of life that in this connection and spend time with the Mandalorian and be his son and be of his culture? Or do you want to commit to this Jedi way? And I didn't feel like it's about this like sort of coldness of you can't care about anybody. I felt like what was in the core of this is Luke trying to prevent Grogu from making the mistakes that Luke felt he personally made, right? I thought this was all about Luke saying to Grogu, like, let me tell you about a chapter in my life called The Empire Strikes Back, where I was torn between my friends and my commitment. Yoda, who I clearly adore, who you remind me of, told me that a Jedi must have the deepest commitment, the most serious mind. I didn't listen to that. I thought it was about swinging a lightsaber and being strong enough to, kill people who are trying to hurt your friends. And, I understand now. And Luke's really got this commitment. I think that tracks through his appearance in Return here, his failure or his pain in Last Jedi, the way Yoda kind of tries to absolve him of it, of like, he didn't have the deepest commitment. He didn't have the most serious mind. And that's like, I burned my hand on that stove and now I'm obsessed with it. Like this focus on being a Jedi just means like, well, maybe you can't always run to you can't always do what you want to do because you are serving something selflessly. You are serving something larger. You can't just be there for your friends because you're there for absolutely everyone. And you need to be where you need to be because that's the path that a Jedi is choosing. So it's not like it's bad to love. It's that if you choose this very intense, selfless lifestyle, you have to be able to respond to what the needs of the galaxy, the needs of others, the needs of what the Force is whispering in the wind, more so than I need to be over here. Luke isn't he's not running around having fun with Han, Yeah. He's not building the New Republic with Leia. He's separated in doing what he needs to do. And he thinks that's the Jedi path. And I think he's offering Grogu, which do you want to do? Do you want to have fun with your buddy and have connection and safety? Or do you want to go down this very committed path?
I think there's a little bit of it, looking at that frog scene, which was great and has some great little comedy. Where, it's like you got this power, you lift this one frog up, and Luke's like, look, there's all these frogs. And that's not saying, hey, you could have all these for dinner, Grogu. Grogu might take it like that way. But I saw it as like, that's great you did that. Here's the full possible potential of what you could be and what you could do if you go this way. I love that you very clearly, you can attach this to the Empire scene, right? And the Seagulls Stop It Please video. It's all in there for you to connect to that. But what's there? What's in that scene on Dagobah and what's here? I really think you're right about that, of Luke taking from that particular chapter when he puts that choice down. It is the Force Ghost Ben and Yoda going, wait, Luke, wait. It is that, and him learning about that and putting that down in front of Grogu. And that's a huge choice. What a cliffhanger.
Yeah, amazing cliffhanger. And I love that it was, again, by the previously on, framed by that conversation about the Mandalorian Creed and the Jedi differing, right?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was like, is this about the true path to loyalty and solidarity? Because those are big, strong words that I know mean a lot to the Mandalorians. And it's very true from their point of view. But what's the true path to that is one of the things I ask myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of it, you're making me think about it. The frog picture is a frog hopped up into Grogu's field of vision, and he reacted to take something he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, Luke showed him this bigger picture of like, yep, you can just be reactive to this one thing that comes into your field of vision and take it, but just be aware of how much bigger everything is. And for me, I think that is what's going on in the difference between the Mandalorian creeds and the Jedi. They do overlap, and in some ways they speak to. They're both about protecting others, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Mandalorians seek to protect their own.
Right.
The traditional Mandalorian creed is about personal aggrandizement through combat and conquest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Jedi believe in, I think some amount of loyalty and solidarity and defending people, but they seek to selflessly protect everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about like limited picture
Yeah.
of the Mandalorian saying, let's protect our group. Let's have loyalty and solidarity in our group. And when we see something we want, we believe it is the natural order of things, that we have the power, we use it, we take it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jedi are like, everything's in balance. Nobody take too much. I'm about protecting everyone. I'm about loving everyone, not just the people right next to me.
Yeah, and we're, if you're a member of the Mando Mercs out there, and we're not attacking the Mandos here. It's a powerful culture that I can't wait to even get more of there, and it's similar to Freetown, where like a lot of it's earned, a lot of attachment to that way of life is earned, and I get it. But I was reading a little bit of the Paul Duncan book, Joseph, and I know you got your copy on the way, the Star Wars Archives. To 1997 to 2005 book. It's just so rewarding to go through this. And and Paul Duncan sitting down with Lucas, and this is where that stuff that broke last year or two, where Lucas's sequel trilogy was going to be Darth Maul and Darth Talon and everything. This is that interview, right? But from that interview, just very clear, and it's nothing new, right? We've heard this for years. You've watched these movies, engaged with it, but sometimes something just breaks out and you see it so clear. And here's George, and I'm not even reading the quote, but George basically saying, yeah, Anakin made this deal with the devil. He made it simply because he went to the gods. It's this river Styx. It's all that mythology. He went to the gods for the help to protect the ones he loved. They said, that's not the way. That's not we do it. So he goes to the devil to make this deal, and he gets this power. And every time he gets more power, he loses more power, down to the point where he is not even all man, and he can't even use the Force as well as he could, because his body's mostly machine. The Force can't connect with that. And then even Palpatine's kind of bummed about the deal he got. Damn, Obi-Wan got in the way. This is from George. He doesn't say damn Obi-Wan, but he said, even Palpatine's like, this isn't what I wanted. That son's going to be better when he learns about that. So, but the lesson in there, and listening to you talk about this choice in front of Grogu and the choice in front of the Mandalorians and the loyalty and solidarity is you're going to hold on to this power with might, and you're going to do it to protect those you love. But you're losing as you gain. You're losing as you gain. You're losing. And the Mandos, as just a people, every time they've had an opportunity to branch outside themselves or do something different, Satine, maybe Bo-Katan, as we get more of that story. I don't believe she's cursed. They lose. They lose. Every time they try to defend in their own way, which is their right, they lose. And I'm not saying it's not putting them up against the wall and saying you've done it wrong. It plays out here so that to highlight that, you're so right, the loyalty and solidarity and what that means for the Mandos, but how you connect to the bigger galaxy. And yeah, Satine was, pacifist. They didn't want to be part of that war. That's not what I mean. The Jedi commitment to all versus, all right, take this chainmail, take this little, Galadriel made chainmail and go meet up with Mando if that's your want. But I'm not saying poor Grogu. You do that, but you're forsaking all. It's not that. It's a tough choice. But anyways, I'm rambling because it's just I love that kind of stuff. I love that stuff at play in Star Wars. And it goes back to George and what he was saying and what's the point of it all.
You're bringing up great stuff. And I shouldn't be just saying Mandalorian, because I think what's at stake is there are different philosophies among the Mandalorians that have been built up in all these Star Wars stories, but are clearly at play in this Mandoverse between Bo-Katan and the Armorer. And I feel like the Bo-Katan and her sister before her is willing to change, right? When Bo-Katan finds out that from her perspective, Din is one of those cult freaks from Children of the Watch. She isn't like, get out of here. She's like, offers 3 more times. I could use your help. I bet you could use my help. Like, she's being a coalition builder, right?
Yeah.
She's not being rigid. And yet there are things about the Mandalorian culture that she embraces. There are wonderful things about the Mandalorian culture. Yeah. Not painting with a broad brush that Mandalorian culture is bad. Mm-hmm. I think there's huge amounts of great things in it. The tradition of the armor, the power of family, the power of found family, the power of art with Sabine.
Yeah.
so much in a great story of let's go back to our planet and see what we can rebuild and make new again. But the armorer is different to me because she's a part of this creed that right now is totally about loyalty and solidarity when they are diminished and on the run. Yeah. But I mean, what do you think? I think if the armorer had a sufficient army, part of the old ways are we prove who we are by battle, by taking, that people should have what they have the power to take. I think that's a part of her creed, and she's not focusing on it right now because right now she has a covert of 2.
Yeah,
because she's been diminished,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you and I keep edging towards just straight up calling the armorer a villain, but hey, I think there's shades of gray. We'll find out more, and it's a great character, by the way. And
a fascinating character, and I understand why a character like that would retreat to the old ways will keep us safe. I think she's a complex character, and I think she's going to be. I think she's a rigid character, and I think Bo-Katan is offering a better way to the future that the armor in her rigidity will simply not engage with. In superstition, in my opinion, that, maybe it was the Empire's overwhelming might that destroyed Mandalore, not a curse.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. Facts is facts, and you ain't paying attention to them there, Armor. No, and again, that's not a shot at traditions and beliefs or anything like that with the Mando. No, I think you're right. Again, the writings on the wall from Paz Vizsla, related to Pre Vizsla and House Vizsla and Death Watch and all the stuff, hiding out on Concordia and all the stuff. As they go rewatch all those episodes, watch what undercut Satine. It wasn't her. It wasn't a curse on her. It was those who would destroy her, and they did. So, leading up to Maul as well. So, yeah, I'm with you on all that there.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of bring it back to Grogu's big choice.
It's all sprung out of Grogu having to choose.
But I mean, that's what's so great because it's tied up in these creeds and these cultures and these hard choices. But connection and wanting to help your friends is great. We're talking a bunch about how the people of Tatooine want to bond together and help one another. So how could it possibly be bad that, Grogu and the Mandalorian want to be together? Like, why is Luke being a jerk? Just give them both.
Yeah.
But I feel like what's at stake is that Luke can see this truth that sometimes I wonder if his heart is in it. He doesn't know if Grogu truly wants to take this long, hard road of being a Jedi and committing to this selfless idea of I protect everyone. Sometimes that means I can't race to help the person I care about the most because I have another responsibility. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's not about, I don't feel like this is Luke going like, well, you can go hang out with your friend the Mandalorian, but you're going to follow the dark side like my father. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's what's going on. And that's what's so great. I think that the armor to Grogu is safety. It's literally armor, right?
Yeah.
And it's connection. It's a life with this sort of loving father figure. How many moments do we see Grogu, smiling with joy as he whips on a speeder with Mando, right? I mean, or rockets around. Like, obviously he's in danger and he picked up some violent habits watching the violent life of the Mandalorian. But I think from Grogu's perspective, being with Din is safety and connection. And the lightsaber is hard work. It's the path of a Jedi that's hard for everybody, but extra hard for Grogu because it's basically saying if you take this path, as Luke lays out, you might not ever see the person you care the most about again. Mm-hmm. And also, you personally have to go get over the fact that to you, this lightsaber represents trauma. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, we saw the lightsaber literally reflected in his eyes, right? It's the trauma that is represented by a lightsaber is huge. So I feel like what Luke is just really saying is you should follow the path that feels right to you. Luke's not making a huge judgment about what the Mandalorian Creed is. He's saying,
correct.
Do you want to take a path that you, Grogu, feel is safety and connection in a warm, loving life with this, father figure? Or do you want to take this really difficult path that's about being selfless and helping everyone and sometimes sacrificing things you want? And oh, by the way, you personally also have to get over a massive amount of trauma to do that.
Yeah, look, two things. We said it up top earlier, but it's like, you want to go home. And so his vision of home is the worst moment in his life, so far, right? I mean, it's a horrible. I mean, again, I was so expected, nice little music playing, maybe some harp and a bunch of little Yodas running around, maybe a yaddle, all the Yothon, the beautiful, all these yodels in trees. And instead, it's Order 66. Well, that's cool. No, it's drama. It's 3 Jedi slaughtered in front of him. It's just and that's his version of home. Unbelievable. And then remember, Luke even says he's like, it's not so much that I'm training him. It's like he's remembering. I'm connected. He's connected back to that. Again, all this to say, man, this is a choice. This isn't like me having steak or pork tonight. This is something big, and it is all. Choice one might lead to all, and this is you, and it's not necessarily selfish. I think you're right. It's not. It's just what's your path? What do you want your path to be?
Yeah, and obviously Luke and Din are shaking hands over. We want to train this kid so that he knows how to defend himself because it's a dangerous galaxy. There's that real practical, yes, absolutely. Let's make sure that this kid knows how to survive in this rough galaxy where he's going to be a target for lots of reasons. So absolutely that. But then beyond that, there's just this great question of armor of it does make you feel more safe, but it might cut you off from some other things.
Yeah.
So we already touched on it in some ways, how these the themes and ideas in this particular chapter reflect larger story and morality perspective of Star Wars, but do you have more thoughts there?
Just a couple little follow-ups there. Fun one for me. King Theoden says, I will not risk open war, and Aragorn says open war is upon you, whether you risk it or not. I absolutely thought of that scene while Din's sitting there pounding the table saying, your town might be good for now, but you're all part of the same planet. I really, you said something too about Peli. I went back to the Tashi Station stuff in my mind where you got old, Fixer and Cammy there, saying this ain't right. And you and I have an episode coming out, I think tomorrow, if you guys are listening, about Tatooine and the importance of Tatooine in Star Wars and what it means. So I don't want to take too much from that episode, but it's funny to see how Star Wars is going back to that and saying we're trying, we're looking at what was in the past and trying to approach it with new and learn and grow. And that's kind of a big Star Wars lesson. So I'd love to go back to the heart of the criminal underworld, and the people of this planet are like, enough's enough. So when Pelimoto's saying it ain't good out here right now, paraphrasing, of course, Tashi Station, we see what's going on. We obviously see the horror, the tragedy of the Tuscans of Dune Sea, and we might learn more about that. To see all that, and even to see Danny Trejo go, look, I saved this Rancor, bred for fighting, and it's not who it is. And this Rancor could be something else. And to see that all flow into this idea of how do you change that? It's here. The change is here. You can no longer be isolated. You have to be connected. All these things you and I talk about, these big themes, but it is here on your doorstep. Because Cobb starts out in that conversation. I still don't see what that's all got to do with me, but it's the dots are connecting. And I really think that's this big Star Wars theme. You don't want to look up. That's great, Jen, but the fight's here.
Yeah, no, there's such Rogue One moments to this, of the great Star Wars philosophy of, Padme negotiating, the Organas trying everything in the build up to the Galactic Civil War to avoid conflict. Jedi, and Luke in particular, asking everybody to be like, can we not do this?
Yeah.
Could I give you some money, Jabba, please? That all the heroes are always trying to avoid violence. And then much like Ahsoka says, but the heroes can't control the wants of others.
Yeah.
And that's why Star Wars is so much about defense. And this just really feels like the people of Tatooine are being like Jedi. I think some vengeance is going to creep in there. But they're starting at this place of, we didn't choose this. We don't want this. You are inflicting something on us, and we are defending ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's that. And one final one for me, too. I love the use of size matters not. We get that. Well, what a good reference. But guess what? Boba Fett doesn't have the numbers. He doesn't have the size, but they've got the heart. So this is what all of this flows into the Book of Boba Fett and his stand against the Pikes. It's why it's important to me. It really is. And just the idea of what you are. Boba Fett is a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire. As Cad Bane spits those words out of his fanged mouth there. And so I took that little thing as a bigger Star Wars thing too. The Rebels. Did size matter to the Rebels? No, they had to overcome that. Yoda, it's not just for Yoda. It's not just for Grogu. It's for the galaxy.
I think that's great. Yeah, and that kind of dovetails into one of the big picture things that I think is this great connection is Star Wars often has questions of identity, of like what makes you who you are. You know, Rise of Skywalker is so much about choosing who you are. You know, the sequel trilogy, everybody kind of assuming things about Ben Kylo because of his blood, and all sorts of issues like that. And in this particular little Mando verse, right, Din has been struggling to define what Mandalorian means to him. He's now been told he isn't one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got that that's all teed up to struggle with. Um, but this show that's been called Book of Boba Fett, that's always been one of the fascinating things about Boba is he has multiple identities, but not quite at home in any of them. He's a clone. He's a Mandalorian by Creed's son. Is he a Mandalorian? He did identify as a bounty hunter, but he doesn't want that now. He wants to be a leader. What is that? Like, there's all these identities that he's carrying and wrestling with, and that is very similar to what's happening to Grogu. This little guy just trying to make his way in his galaxy, and I was like, well, now you have these paths laid, before you. Are you a Mandalorian foundling, or are you a Padawan? What makes your identity?
As Saw Gerrera once said in a trailer that never made the movie, what will you become?
Yeah. And I also think there's this great connection between Grogu's trauma and Boba's trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
That a lot of what this show has shown Boba Fett wrestling with is the initial trauma of losing his father, losing safety, and then going out into the galaxy and becoming kind of a Cad Bane was not lying. He was a cold-blooded killer who worked for the Empire. He's maybe not anymore. Maybe he is up for debate. But he allowed himself to become this cold-blooded killer, and now he's trying to come back from that. And similar place that Grogu's in of, can you push past this trauma?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And both dealing with the potential, potential reality of lost fathers. Thankfully, Din still has his head, but it's a similar conundrum of a lost father.
Love it. Left for dead on the sands of Tatooine, but also left alone on the sands of Tatooine. And what do you do from there?
Yeah, last big thing for me is, I think, a great Star Wars theme of kind of the past is always present and generational influence, right? I love Luke's just like love letter to Yoda, right? Where he's talking so fondly of him, paraphrasing Yoda, saying, "Don't try, do," giving Grogu a ride. Just like there's so many connections to that generational influence of Yoda. Ahsoka calling out that generational connection between Anakin and Luke. Cad Bane is, not, if not a mentor, certainly somebody to look up to, as Boba Fett tried to become the baddest bounty hunter in the galaxy. So that's going on there. Even that, just a great fun throwaway line of Cobb Vanth asking, is that a Naboo starfighter? And Din going, oh, that's what it started off as.
Yeah.
It's this continuing great Star Wars theme. This is why I am not as concerned about Star Wars nostalgia, is because the characters are always being affected by who and what came before, either positively or negatively.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a big look at some of the themes and ideas. We always like to check in on the title. This is From the Desert Comes a Stranger. What did you make of that title?
I think it's my favorite one so far. I really love it. And it right away did not make me think of Cad Bane. I guess it should have made me think of Cad Bane, but it made me think of I guess Cobb Vanth in a way. But I obviously it's going to be more. But I just love it in terms of a good spaghetti Western title and that influence and how it worked as well. So the deeper meanings are there as well, I guess, if you want to dig in. But I loved it on that surface level, and just the stranger comes from the desert to stranger danger stranger to break it all up. And I love the great use of Cad Bane. It all builds to we're talking about all these big themes that builds up to Cad Bane saying none of that matters, just the past. That's who you are.
Yep. It's just so great. It's so heightened and pulpy and poetic of from the desert comes a stranger. I mean, that could be the tagline on a poster for a Western in 1942, right? That could be the title of a Western. It's pretty literal to Cad Bane when that terrifying stranger comes from the desert. But I also think it is about exactly what you're talking about, like that stranger danger of, is the fact that somebody's a stranger do they automatically bring danger, or can they be an ally? And I feel like since that is a lot of what's at stake, that gives the title some good oomph to me.
Yeah. Love it.
Was there anything that you disliked or questioned in this chapter?
Yeah, I don't like the color of the Vespas. So, no.
Were the Vespas in this episode and I missed it?
No. I guess my point is, yeah, who remembers that? No, nothing. So this was a near perfect episode. No artist is without flaws, like I've heard you say before. I love that. But great job all around. Love it. I guess I would have liked if Cad Bane goes, Boba Fett tell you how he got that dent in his helmet? Let me tell you. See more in Bad Batch Season 2.
Watch Bad Batch Season 2. Yeah. The only thing that I disliked or questioned is I felt just absolute horror at getting that delightful close-up of the astromech drummer, only to know that it did a rim shot, I'm sure, as the explosion went off, but that astromech drummer better be rebuilt. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. We can rebuild. Rebo comes back in. Not again. I mean, it could be, in theory, that could be the end of Figure and Dan. Oh my God, there's a lot going on.
No. All right. We're going to take a moment to process our trauma. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to get back in to talk about comedy and action, but canon, lore connections. Wow. Still a lot left to talk about. And we are back to continue our discussion of Chapter 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. We are going to get into all of the canon and lore connections to other Star Wars stories. I love this section of our breakdown, Ken, because sometimes it's like, we saw the pole from the trash compactor. Is that the same one? And sometimes it's like, hey, characters from all over every part of storytelling of Star Wars, every medium, every era, decided to just jump into the sandbox and play together, and that's what we're looking at this episode. We'll get into specific details, but do you have any big picture reaction to just how much we saw?
It was a lot. It was a lot. I don't mean that in any negative way at all, but just like when I said earlier, my reactions was like, oh wow, they're doing it. Like it wasn't shy, and some people love that, some people don't. And I to me, I'm like, dump all the action figures on the ground as long as it makes sense, and it really made sense. There was a joke, I was, like I said up top, I was slightly worried at some of the expectations coming into this episode, right? Mm-hmm. Which is fun because it's this moment we're all feeling collectively as Star Wars fans, no matter where we are, waiting for this episode to drop. So it's really fun. I'm not here to take anything away from anyone there, but I think I'm just so 5-6 years into this era where I'm just so don't want the expectations to turn into horrible discourse because X didn't happen. So I was a little worried about that. And then when it happened, that kind of went away because it was just really fun and purposeful. As long as it's purposeful, unless it's a little tiny reference, that's always fun. So it was all to say, Joseph, it was real impactful lore connections, and that's why I enjoyed it more than just checklist of names.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so far beyond just a poll of who's going to appear. Everybody's appearing for a reason, and there's such great connections, and you can enjoy it in both ways. You can enjoy that. Like for me, I had that. Like that Luke opened his eyes just the way he did in Return of the Jedi. That means so much to me, and I can enjoy that almost just on the surface of how that makes me feel as an individual human being, and then I can dive into why is Luke doing that? How is it connected to other things? So I'm so with you, and it's fun to live now in this world where for a while, I remember in season 2 of The Mandalorian, you and I had a breakdown of like, well, if Grogu does call someone, call a Jedi, because that had been teed up, who's he going to call? And we were both like, well, it's got to be Luke, right? But could they do that? And I feel like our kind of incredulous, could they do that, has now been shattered into a million pieces, right?
100%. Even like I said, prior to this episode on a video game stream, I was hanging out playing Red Dead Redemption. People are like, "Oh, dude, do you think we're going to see Luke and Grogu?" And I still, even then, and this is 4 hours before the episode dropped, I was like, I don't know. That doesn't, not because I don't want it, because can they? Like technically, can they? And they've answered that question even better than they did last year. And then so from that, once that goes away, it's like, all right, can we get into Leia, issues of her estate You know, they've already cleared it for Rise of Skywalker, we know, but would they clear it going forward? I don't know. Do you do Alden with Harrison's voice and tech, or just Harrison? I don't know. But now I have this, like, I have kind of a big why not going on in my soul because of this specific episode. Not even last week or last year with the Mando. This episode, I'm a huge Cad Bane fan, but I think I got to tell you, Cad Bane's always been that character that I'm like, I love Cad Bane. You know, he's an animated character.
Right?
Not no more, Billy. Not no more, because he's there and it looks so real. I'm convinced that that's actually him. It's actually Adoros who got cast. It's so good. So why not? I loved it all.
Right. I mean, I think you make great points about, you know, lot to be discussed about, you know, estates and people making decisions. And I think the fact that kind of Mark Hamill is still credited, right? All the technology involved, that there's this sense that they're still going to Mark Hamill to help build this performance. And so that's why this can be to kind of hold it up and validate it is really powerful. And the reflection that in this live action television show, there is a standoff between a character from an animated show and an extremely minor character from a book.
Yeah, an interlude character. Yeah, we're not even talking. No. It's not Singer though. Gosh, give me some Singer action. Give me Nora Wexley. But yeah. You're absolutely right. Black Crescent and all. It's everyone's represented here.
Yeah, and then just throw Ahsoka in there. So let's get into these details.
But we're so used to Ahsoka being around live action now, right? It's old hat.
This is her second appearance, and it's Ahsoka and Luke together for the first time. Like, any one of the things that we're going to discuss would normally be like the focus of this entire section. But anyway, so Luke's school, love those droids, just building. So in all R2 colors, like R2 painted them.
Yeah.
But they're building a hut. Obviously, the Jedi Hut. It looks similar in design to the ones on Octo. I think the way the story has been laid out, I don't think Luke's been to Octo. I think it's just a standard I think it's a standard design.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, the gift and the curse of us recording this quickly after the episode has come out. There's nothing on the internet yet to verify if this is the planet where Luke's school is seen in those flashback scenes in the sequel trilogy, in the comic book Rise of Kylo Ren. The structure that Kylo pulls down is wooden. This was all stone. This could just be the beginning and it slowly builds up, or it could be a different place. I don't think we know yet. Do you?
No, we don't. And I worry because, there's a lot of trees, and I did go back to watch the dream sequences in Last Jedi this morning as well. Didn't pick out the Rise of Kylo comic yet. I should do that. Go out to the garage and check those photos. So it's like, does Luke do a little of Saruman action and just cut all the trees down? I don't know. We'll see. It definitely looks a little different, but the vibe is very similar, right? And that could just be like, here's how it looks then, or whatever. So, but fun, nothing but fun to wonder.
Yeah, and I think that's what the thing that matters to me is, like, probably by the time we're recording this, there will be a confirmation of it is or it isn't. Here's the planet name we've all been waiting for. Like, and that stuff is fun. And mea culpa, we're recording this before we know. But to me, what matters is that spirit of it, right? I mean, imagine back in like the 83, and like Luke's going to start a school, and this is what it looks like on this peaceful planet with this simple structure. It just, the mood and the energy of it is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on then to Luke's memories of Yoda. He was small, but he had a huge heart, which is such a lovely line, and also sounds like he had a heart condition. So he quotes, "The size matters not." And Ken, the one that just I thought was so great is I think he's trying to trigger Grogu's memory, because it sounds like Grogu probably interacted with Yoda, as all younglings do. And Luke says of his master, he talked like that. He would speak in riddles. How did that grab you as a description of Yoda's speech pattern?
Really fun to hear it in universe, right? To hear someone address it. I don't, unless it's like a comic or a Clone Wars episode I missed. I don't remember any point in the movies or anything where someone's like, why you talk that way? why you talk that way? Why? I don't know. So it's just fun, cute, very endearing. But I got to tell you, I got nervous, Joseph, because I was like, is is this it? Is this Maggie Simpson's first word? Is Grogu going to be like, remember I do? Like, I was like, oh, no. Okay. Not yet.
Yoda, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like since he just said size matters not, and he spoke that way in riddles, I feel like there's a way to look at it as speech pattern. I don't think Yoda was trying to talk in riddles when he said around the survivors a perimeter create. I think that was a direct military order
Yeah.
that was hopefully understood well by the clones. But I feel like there's a little bit of a sort of acknowledgement of like he talked differently, but the content of what he said was teaching always.
Yes.
He would ask you things that make you think. He would show you a door and then you would have to go through it. And that's the way he talked to you. I feel like there was like that sort of depth to this great romantic mythic saying, he would speak in riddles.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I loved it. It was very fun.
Yeah. So great. So great. Really, really fantasy roots of Star Wars. To me there. Any other thoughts on Luke's waxing poetic about Yoda?
No, but the training sequence overall, I loved it. And I made a joke earlier, but I really made me think of that bad lip reading YouTube video, Stiegel Stop It Now, which is one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars comedy. Just when he's like, I can be your backpack while you run. I can be your backpack while you climb. And just, so I went to that, oddly enough, I went to that before I went to Yoda on Luke's back in Dagobah. I don't know where my priorities are, but I went to that video first. But just loved seeing that little full circle poetry it rhymes moment.
Yep. Just literally trying to show the kid the big picture by climbing real tall, real high. Then we go to trauma. Grogu's Order 66 memories. Who knew when we first saw Revenge of the Sith that we as Star Wars fans would be haunted by various depictions of this horror again and again for years. How lucky are we? There was that great sort of vision memory visual effect like Anakin's in the prequels when Grogu went back into his memories. Obviously, I think we talked about how I think it has kind of like thematic resonance with what's going on of the Jedi trying to defend Grogu and his traumatic memory he pulls himself out of ends with him being defenseless. But did you find yourself wondering in that moment, like, a Jedi is going to jump in and save Grogu, and we're going to learn how who saved Grogu? Or is it that, is the next beat in that memory, Grogu reaches his hands out and their necks all snap?
Right. Yeah. My thought was Tara Sinube jumps in and says, not today. Yeah, I think we'll pick that up, right? Because first of all, could you imagine if you're Dave Filoni, you got that curly hair and that cowboy hat, and you come to work that day to shoot a scene from Revenge of the Sith, the movie that you don't stop talking about, and the day you met Lucas and got hired in Clone Wars and still had to go to the movie and hung out with your friends. That's such a part of Dave's identity. By the way, I'm celebrating that with him. Could you imagine that day at work where he's like, I get to shoot Revenge of the Sith again. It's like a deleted scene around the corner. Oh my God. Because of the hallway, the colors, the dream, the vibe, like you said, the do kind of thing that got going on. But it felt like Sith, and I really did love that. So beyond just wondering who's going to jump out or what does he do next, because both are possible. I really just enjoyed seeing Revenge of the Sith on my screen again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the beauty of seeing those blaster bolts and those lightsabers in Grogu's big eyes, just taking it all in. And I really like that it's a cliffhanger of like, I do think as Grogu makes other choices and processes other traumas, we're gonna see the rest of that story.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we go to this, character that sometimes people like to talk about, Ahsoka Tano, in a thing that many fans have been talking about. It's something that we've been on about on the podcast of wanting a campfire moment between Ahsoka and Luke, because they have wonderful things to offer one another about Anakin, that Luke can tell Ahsoka about how the choice that Anakin made at the end of his life, and Ahsoka can tell Luke what a great and kind man he was as a Jedi. And we now get a vibe of that.
Yeah.
We get the line of Ahsoka has obviously been there. She knows Luke. She says, I'm an old friend of the family, which is amazing. She has that great look when she says, Luke is worrying about Grogu, and she says, "So much like your father." So let's get into all that. What did you think about Ahsoka and Luke being on screen together, interacting, talking about Anakin?
It was just one of those moments of, wow, they're really doing it, and the tech looks pretty darn good, and you know, I really like Rosario as Ahsoka. I just think down to even some of the movements, speech patterns, and everything. She's doing not just her best. She's doing a great job as an actor with taking what Ashley Eckstein built and to pay respects to Ashley there and moving it forward in a different chapter of the character's life. So I'm personally on board with it. Some might not be. I understand that. But it was just what I liked more than anything, Joseph. I'd love to see one day that campfire conversation that we've dreamed up on our head. I believe it's happened, right? Because the version of Ahsoka that we get in Mando that's a little more, I don't want to say angry, but angsty. She's still got that peace and purpose. She's still got that great vibe, but there's something going on in her soul, right? As she's searching for something bigger, for something more. And I think she still is. Hey, it's like she's got a show coming, but there just was a lot of peace, a lot of just poignancy to the words she was saying and how she was acting and what she was to all those characters. All three of those characters, she represented something important. So that was fun for me too.
Yeah, that was one of my get a little teary moment when I was like, okay, I'm in the story. I'm thinking about all of what it means and all these great ideas. And oh yeah, no, Ahsoka just walked up to Luke, and then I was just like, really, like Ahsoka just walked up behind Luke Skywalker. We've been waiting for this, Yeah, I agree with you about her performance. I'm really enjoying it. She's got this hand gesture on when she's having the conversation with Din, and Din is saying like he's a Mandalorian foundling, and Ahsoka says perhaps he's a Padawan now. And her hand gesture is straight out of Clone Wars animation. Like they had to have said like, or Rosario studied it. Dave gave the direction, whatever it is. It's being very mindful of the physical movements of Ahsoka. So I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was also really touching to see that buddy moment between Ahsoka and R2, right?
Oh, R2, man, yeah.
She strokes them and he laughs. Yeah, I thought the exact same thing on their, initial meeting. He's R2-y, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Fun.
Yeah, it's great. And really interesting to see how in on everything R2 is. Of like, yeah, no, I know this guy's got some boundary issues. I'll take him to Ahsoka first.
And yeah. And yeah. By the way, just seeing R2 is still pretty cool, right? It's always good to see that droid around.
Right. That's amazing when R2 is like on the lower billing of the many things to talk about. Yeah, I kind of feel like we will still see their initial meeting because maybe I'm wrong. And if I am, I trust that there is a storytelling reason and I'll go along with it. But I do really feel like she's peace and purpose and doing what she needs to do and offering people a way out in the Jedi episode of Mandalorian season 2. But there is like a sadness to her, I think. And when she's talking about, even the greatest Jedi can lose their way with attachment. I feel like she is in a brighter place. And I think it's a really interesting idea of her connecting with Luke, right? If she becomes aware through the Force that Grogu has gone with him and she goes to talk to him about it, because it feels like she's just popping in to check on things, to have a little confab, and then she's off on her 100%. On what she needs to do.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, there's a lot to it. It's some of the, I'm gonna have to revisit it just to take it in more. It's just fun. It's just good, and I feel good. Ahsoka's just one of my favorite characters, and has been for a while. And it's nice to see her feel a little peace in this moment.
Yeah, and their vibe is so great too. Of like, she clearly has respect for Luke. Of like, there's nowhere safer than next to Luke Skywalker than Master Luke. And she's literally hanging back behind him, watching him, and he still defers to her like she's, his wise old auntie, of like, am I doing the right thing? That vibe between them is so great. There's such respect and such room given to one another.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I just keep saying, because I just like you said, it's like, wow, we saw that. We saw those two characters go back to 2008, sit in that theater to the Clone Wars movie and go to that moment, go to now and just try to connect those dots and see if you believe it.
Yeah. Do you have any opinion or any concern about where in her journey this is, or do you just kind of trust that the timeline of the Mandoverse will bounce around and show us what it needs to when it needs to?
Yeah, I still think whatever my personal take is, I should say, I still think whatever is coming is on the way, right? She's just passing through. Who knows? Maybe Sabine was waiting back in the ship and was just doing some artwork. I don't know. Yeah, I see that, but yeah, I think they'll flesh that out. And I think, like you, I just I'll let go of that attachment to the idea, but them having that conversation, because again, going from, like you said, to she's got some clearly some issues with what happened to Anakin in Mando, and here just to say I'm a friend of the family means she's still claiming that connection,
Yeah, and saying it's so much like your father. There's nothing but joy between them in that. It's not bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
It's
talk
not
about Star Wars.
It's not sorry, it's not Uncle Owen. Ugh.
Exactly. We were saying the exact same thing. It's great Star Wars poetry. It's not like, oh, what a problem. Almost every time that anyone has told Luke that he's like his father, it's a problem. And this is the first time it's been a compliment.
Yeah. That's big.
Yeah. Huge. I can't wait to see where in her journey this is. And I also think that, I'm very curious to see now that Book of Boba Fett contains the stories of many other people as well, that my mind is opened about what the Ahsoka show can be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Yeah.
So the the Jawa's decorating is the next place I go. I took that to be a great dragon skull that they have made a roof patio out of.
Yeah, or like trying to sell it to market. It was great, and the fact that they're just like, do they see Din, or are they just waving at ship? I don't know. I don't care. It just was a great happy moment.
I don't know. That ship just brings everybody who sees it joy.
Yeah. They're like, hey, Phantom Menace.
Yeah, like N1 Starfighter. I had that Lego. No, like, but the Jawas do have that mood of like, cool ship,
Yeah.
But yeah, I took it to be maybe they're off to sell it now that the Tuscans have taken everything they wanted from the crate. They're like, left the skull. Either they're taking it to try to sell it, or I do like that, like, the suns can be a little harsh. We need a little shade on top of our sandcrawler.
I'd be fine with all of that. That's great.
Yeah. So we talked about this briefly. It's Freetown now, not Mos Pelgo. It is the Weequay bartender says we changed the name. Suits us better.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all that? Going back to these are those Aftermath novels are some of the earlier novels. They are very different. They're written in that present tense style. They have all these interludes that kind of paint a picture of the galaxy immediately after the fall of the Empire. And this is pulling directly from it, saying, hey, not only are we taking characters and ideas and locations from that story, we're now, in fact, making an effort to have it line up, to have the television show line up even more with the books. How do you feel about all that?
I absolutely love it. As a fan of Wendeg's work in the Aftermath series, and yeah, you're right. It was go back to early controversies in Star Wars and go to those books. I do like it. And it's fun. It's just fun to imagine. Imagine Favreau tells a story. They go, well, there's this guy Cobb Vanth. All right, put him in this. That'll work. Cast Timothy Olyphant. We got it. It's Mos Pelgo. And then for like a year, Filoni's just like, well, it's called Freetown now. It's called Freetown, which is funny too. Joseph, Filoni is a weird canon guy too, where I think he's not so concerned with it as people maybe want to think. With the modern canon, he wants to do the George thing and tell the story. So if in this dream scenario I'm dreaming up here, I'm envisioning, it's funny just have either of them try to pick a small canon moment and put it into the show.
Yeah. And I feel like it wasn't just like, it wasn't this sort of like, you could have a pedantic joke, right? Somebody could call something, a gun, and somebody goes, actually, those are my LL3 twin blaster pistols. Like, you could just kind of have a joke that acknowledges the more, technical name for something, or the more correct name. But I felt like this was it worked so well because it was building up this idea of, like we were talking about earlier, of like, we've done a lot of work on this community and we're proud of what we've built, and we want to put a new name on it. We're not afraid to change. We changed the name. Suits us better. It goes to so many of the big themes in this show and in Din's journey of like, are you willing to change?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And identity and everything. It worked. And again, it's not a checklist thing. It's just, it's just it has good purpose and is used well.
Yeah, and I think anytime that the all of the Star Wars storytelling can line up, that seems to make people really happy. I understand if you're on screen and an event happened, right? There was a battle at this place. These two people were there, and you don't necessarily, if you're telling that same battle on screen, you don't necessarily want to be locked into every exact tiny detail. I get that. I'm okay with that. I know some fans aren't okay with that. But for something like this, where it makes it closer to the other part of Star Wars storytelling, and it tells a great story all by itself, is great because for me, like the people who love those books and know that are like, all right, pumping their fist. And for me, it works on a thematic level, and it kind of works on a comedy level. It almost is like the town was drinking one night and everybody got to put a name in a hat, and we pulled out Freetown.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Imagine if you haven't read the book, you're like, that's the name they chose? Okay.
Freetown. All right. Well, these are very literal people. All right.
I like.
All right. All right. Moving on to, another big canon thing that could have been just the main thing in this episode. Cad Nightmare Fuel Bane. We talked a little bit about his appearance. Any reactions to the way he was introduced, his appearance, his voice, any of that, just kind of surface level stuff?
Worked. You still got what Corey Burton doing the voice, right? There was a couple moments where it was like not different, but it's like, oh, okay, this is like a live action version. And then there was just a couple of ones. It was like, oh man, that's Clone Wars. And I love it. No, look, man, Star Wars is about a lot of deep things that you and I discuss all the time. It's also about the cool. It's also about the joy. It's also about the fun. And the wind chimes moving, and him going, I had no thoughts. I know a lot of people have been predicting that Cad Bane would show up. I kept my mind open about it. I had some thoughts. I'd love to see some stuff with him and Boba Fett and Bad Batch. We'll see if that comes. But the moment that wind goes, I went, in my head, I was like, it's Cad Bane. Oh my God. And so to have it deliver in that way, the good, the bad, the ugly shot, the Western showdown, it's Deadwood, it's everything. I loved it, man. I thought it was an A+. And I loved it last night, went to bed thinking about it, woke up, watched the episode 2 more times. And it continued to just give me joy. And sometimes we just want to live in that. And it really was a great job. Much like, because by the way, like Cad Bane's arrival in Clone Wars, and not the chronological order, but the broadcast order. His arrival in Clone Wars is one of my favorite moments, and one I've written about and analyzed, of just like how it shouldn't have worked, but it worked. How this almost comically designed cowboy outlaw character with trench coat, duster, blasters, Clint Eastwood hat, that should not work. And it always would work because he was dangerous and he was that Star Wars villain, and that same vibe. I got to imagine, if you've never seen those Clone Wars episodes and you saw this, like you said, Joseph, nightmare fuel for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it when we did our Clone Wars report. Yeah. But the kind of almost over the top trench coat and a hat. And then also he's got cheekbone hoses.
Yes.
Right. That shouldn't be terrifying. And yet the magic of Star Wars, just sort of great, weird. What's that for? What's going on? Absolutely love it. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Cad Bane, to pull the curtain back, I think the way Cad Bane was being talked about, I kind of felt like somebody had some information. So
are you?
I wasn't. Yeah.
Are you saying someone?
I'm not naming names. I'm not naming
names either. But if someone has a friend at Lucasfilm and somehow makes 100% accurate predictions over the years, I don't know how that happens. Justin.
There were a couple instances of that. It was so early. Like I think for me, like, well, with we did it too when we discussed with Boba Fett and with the crime world. That does seem like, all right, do you have any favorite bounty hunter from Boss to Dengar? For me, my hope of Embo jumping in from live action. You get to see the origin story of Constable Zuvio before he was Constable. What Chrysanthemum was on the table, right?
Yeah.
But there's just a way that emerged so early of like Cad Bane, yes or no, that it made me feel like,
yeah.
I feel like this is. It was before the first episode even aired, right?
Yes.
People have fun with the joke about WandaVision of everybody predicting this Marvel villain Mephisto, right? But that was once the show got running and it was clear that there was someone lurking behind it all. We didn't even have that. It was before the first one, like Cad Bane.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it got to a point of like, I feel like he's gonna show up, maybe not, but anyway.
Yeah.
So with that, I think leading that being in my mind, I was right there with you with like, as soon as the wind chimes came, like the title came back to my head of From Desert Comes a Stranger, right?
But it was that moment where I was like, I was so stupid to think that was Cobb Vanth. What am I doing? Do I even watch these shows?
But what I really loved about it is the terror. And, maybe some listeners are like, what's wrong with you, Joseph? Wasn't that scary? What was scary to me about it is the way it was built up, that there were so many beats in this episode. I've always loved Cobb Vanth. I liked him in the books. I loved him in The Marshal. And he was even more lovable. We're going to get to our favorite comedy lines. Half of them are his, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was so charming, and it's not because he's elderly. It's because he's thin, totally vulnerable and scarred.
Yeah.
And that great structure of the tension of like, he's facing down 4 pikes, but he's a faster draw. And then we get to spend some time with him. We like him so much. He doesn't want to put the townspeople at risk, but he knows when he tells them the truth, they're all going to go to war. In with all of that, then this dreaded nightmare badass slowly sauntering into town, and just like it's not like Cobb Vanth is force sensitive, but just that total intuition of like, there's no way this is good. Everyone get inside. It was such a great way to tee up. So Cad Bane wasn't a Leonardo DiCaprio pointing gif. It wasn't about just I recognize him. I don't think there's anything wrong with I recognize him and I love him. That's great. But if none of us had ever seen Cad Bane before, heard the name, it would still have the weight of the nightmare is coming to town. What Din just tried to convince me that we're not safe, we're not isolated, what's happening everywhere is coming here, is walking in blue nightmare form.
Welcome to potentially the first 3-hour ForceCenter in a while. A lot of thoughts here. I want to jump back in here. First of all, I as someone who is a Timothy Olyphant fan, who Deadwood is one of my favorite shows, and I have not watched Justified, and we joke he's good at playing those characters for a reason. I was, you remember, I was a little more critical of him in The Marshal, didn't vibe with it as much. That's all gone right here, right now. Again, the thing I keep talking about, or something in Star Wars, you're like, that's new, and I don't know if I like it. You just take a breath and live with it a moment. Star Wars rewards you for that, I think, time and time again. I really loved him in this one. Really loved the way the lines, everything about it flowed so beautifully for me. And in just classic, just pro wrestling terms, for those that don't know, I worked in pro wrestling for like 20 years. This is the term when you put someone over, and the use of it. You establish the greatness of Cobb Vanth in the beginning. He's a quick draw. He's in charge. He's keeping it safe. And he does the count, takes the 3 for Cad Bane to show you how dangerous Cad Bane is, and elevates him as a villain. That's how it works. It's basic storytelling. I love the execution of it here.
Yeah, and I think that's it for me, is like I love Cobb Vanth. They made me care about him. I already liked him. This episode really elevated him. You've got this great generational story that's been set up with some good comedy of the jittery, over-eager youngster. I mean, that's got some great rhythms with Luke trying to train Grogu, who's impulsive. Like, I don't know, this deputy might eat a frog. That energy. And for me, just sitting there going like, I'm so excited to see Cad Bane. And if I had a blaster, I'd pull it on him right now because he's going to kill this guy I love.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's so great. It's such a fun mix of emotions to be so happy to see Cad Bane and so live in that moment of tragedy. Like I had no doubt that there's no way that Cobb is getting the drop on him. Right?
Yeah.
And that, living with that tension of that tragedy. And the only question is he going to die now, or might he live till next episode?
Yeah. Look, I hope he lives. I really want to see him there in that final fight. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Anyways, and I'm with you too. And sometimes I'll even apologize to listeners. If you catch me like on a stream, if I'm on Twitch, which I do every now and then, and I get a lot of, hey, Ken, do you think so-and-so? I get a little grumpy and will challenge you on that. Okay. Why? Tell me why. Why do you want Cad Bane? I'm not here for theories. I'm not here for predictions. They're fun, but they don't move the needle for me anymore. They did 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I'm not there for it. And every time, Joseph, the show and the movies, personal to me, they answer the why so well. And this is one of the greatest examples of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just, his voice being so fearsome, the teeth being so fearsome, the reveal of the red eyes, everything just it draws this terror level to this great height. And even in this episode, makes it clear what he's there for. This all starts with Boba Fett saying, I don't want to be a hunter anymore. I don't want to be somebody who's just paid by idiots to kill other people who don't have to die, and I don't question it, and I don't treat anybody with this honor that I claim to have. I don't want to be that anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, what does it look like? What does that look like? It's Cad Bane, right?
Yep.
No honor, no mercy, no change. Some fans might debate the honor thing with me, but merciless killer out for number one and number one only. And heading into this fight with Boba Fett, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, really does.
Yeah. So one quick question I want to ask you is, obviously, many fans know about the Clone Wars animatics that were shown, that there was going to be this story of Cad Bane and Boba Fett working together, that Cad Bane kind of wants to challenge Boba Fett because he never got a chance to prove he was better than Jango. So he wants to prove he's better than Boba, and the dent in the helmet and all that. Do you feel like we're still going to get a version of that story, possibly in Bad Batch Season 2? Do you think that a part of what's being built here is not just that Boba's a hunter who has changed and Cad Bane's a hunter who hasn't, but they actually do have beef, and Cad Bane still wants to prove he's better?
Oh yeah, they got heat, man. They got heat, and I would love to see that scene fully realized. I just keep saying Bad Batch because Bad Batch has a lot of that energy of let's pick up some of the threads back then, and we know Dave and company had the Clone Wars wanted to tell the story, so now more than ever, and because who knows what happens next week, and I don't think we'll get I was gonna say I don't think we'll get that live action flashback, but who knows?
We might.
Who knows? Put the Daniel Logan over the kid stand-in body and do that whole scene live action next week in a flashback. If someone says Cad Bane's here and Boba Fett goes, I need to go take a back to nap. Let me go dream about what this was. It could. And now it even has more importance to me in terms of just seeing these characters interact and why he's there. Again, why Cad Bane's there. And that not people always been looking forward to. They know the connection between Cad Bane and Boba Fett of fans.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons people wanted him to show up in the show. So I get that. So I'm excited. I'd be real excited to see that because that dent is still there and still prominent.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a no holds barred. Anything could happen, and I think they definitely have some history that we may or may not see in future episodes or Book of Boba Fett. Moving on to our last bit of canon that I wanted to talk about. Also, a thing that we could spend this entire chunk talking about: Yoda's saber. How were you affected by that? That it was not just, hey, I got a lightsaber from somewhere, but specifically it's Yoda's.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Loved that. Love kind of immediately tracing. Well, where did he, did he pick it up? Did he have it? Just the checklist canon kind of thing. And then just whatever that moment might have been where Luke either was given it by Yoda or someone else or Ahsoka or found it or whatever. That if we ever see that, I don't think we need to, but if we ever see it, it'd be a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, my headcanon is this is really supportive of some of the book and comic materials about Luke. As soon as the Empire's taken care of, what he cares about is discovering more about the Force. What artifacts does the Empire and Palpatine in particular have, hidden away? Because I think Yoda loses that saber in Revenge of the Sith, right? It falls out of his hands.
Yeah.
So obviously it could be any story, as Maz Kanata said.
Yeah.
A great question for another time. But what it made me immediately think of is a picture of, Yoda lost it in the Senate chamber and Palpatine kept it as just like a trophy of somebody he defeated.
That'd be great.
And Luke found that trophy room wherever it was and is reclaiming that, and that possibility is, I don't know. It just, I would watch any amount of shows that's just basically Luke's version of Jedi Antiques Roadshow where he just finds stuff.
Yeah. Laura Santek is like, I've got something for you.
Yeah. So I thought that was great. I thought it made the most of the obvious connections between Grogu and what Yoda was saying, or Luke is saying about his master, Yoda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So great stuff. Oh, I did mean to ask you one other Cad Bane question, and we'll get moving because we are already at a long episode. Um, how do you feel about the questions now that are going to be, where was Cad Bane during the Empire? You know, if Vader's calling the best of the best to find Han Solo, why isn't Cad Bane there? How do you feel about those kind of
I think
questions?
he opened up a side business for a while. I think he took a powder. I think after maybe getting his butt beat by younger Boba Fett, maybe if we learn out more. Yeah, it's fair questions to ask, and there's going to be a lot of wonderful videos about that. And as you and I always say, just means we'll get an answer one day, maybe.
Yes. A great question for another time is the way I feel about that one. All right. There was some action in this episode for sure. Did you have some favorite action moments?
It's funny there. Yeah, there was. It was so thought out, and measured action, right? There's. It seems like there wasn't a lot, but there was a lot all the way through. Cobb Vanth's opening scene was great, and the 3 shots, all the lines. It's even just the some of the phrasing. Such a Western show. It's just totally my vibe there. So I love that. I love the think about it, think it through, and that whole sequence.
Yeah, the quick draw is cool, but the fact that he starts the conversation with "think it through," and then after he shoots 3 of them, says the last one, "Think it through."
Think it through.
Such a great line.
Yeah.
There's I think one of the big actions is the Traumatic Order 66 flashback. I like how it's kind of in slow-mo, so we've definitely seen some things that we've seen before, but the Jedi does manage to reflect that one bolt, and we really just kind of see it fly right into the clone trooper. That was a cool bit of action.
Cool. Yeah, I love that. 501st getting it.
Yep. And giving it. There really wasn't a ton of action. A lot of the other things I put in comedy, whimsy, and weirdness. So the other one for me is just the Grogu versus the training remote and all those little leaps. Yeah. The big leaps in the little. There's one where he does like a huge leap, and then he does just a little jump.
Yeah, because he kind of does like a Yoda fighting Dooku leap at one point, right? There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, and the turning and just like enough. I'm no longer afraid of you. Yeah. No, I'm going on the offense. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Any other action thoughts, or should we move on to comedy and whimsy?
Just a shout out again to the Cad Bane, Cobb Vanth showdown.
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty big one.
Yeah, just it played out so well. But see our previous thoughts on Cad Bane.
Yeah. Did you feel at all bad for that deputy?
Yeah, no, look, his heart's in the right place. All right. He paid for it. And you don't blame him for going, I'm not leaving you alone. That's one of the things we keep talking about. Connection, standing by, choosing a side. He did all the right things. It just, it got him killed.
Yep. And he did instigate. He did instigate. Yeah. All right. We'll move on to. I don't mean to be hard on him. I thought he was a great character that shows that eagerness of youth. Yeah. Anyway, a cautionary tale. How about that? Let's move on to comedy, whimsy, weirdness. What stuff did you have here?
You have a lot of Cobb Vanth lines. So I'll just say one there. You might have it too, and let's be honest. In Mos Eisley, anything goes. Mos Eisley's taking a lot of hits in this series, and I love it.
I really like the picture that Mos Eisley is just like this out of control college town that doesn't even have a college. Yeah. Now, I don't know what arrangements you have with the authorities in Mos Espa, and let's be honest, in Mos Eisley, anything goes. I took a screen capture of that, and his face is so great. Like, yeah, Mos Eisley.
Oof. Yeah.
There's so much that I loved about this episode that is just all about mood and all the great, beautiful stuff on the Jedi planet. I love when R2 just goes to sleep and has his droids make a bench.
Yep.
And then says, "Is that a bench?"
So my favorite part of that is one of the ant droids walks up to R2. There's a beep, and the droid watching his pincher nods as he's like, "Okay, yeah, build a bench, got it." And it's just, I love that R2's like, "This guy needs a bench."
Build a waiting room for this guy is hilarious.
And, I even think Din laying down and just go, what's that? I think that's us as a Star Wars audience for a lot of shows, movies, and series. Just sit down, man. The story's happening. Just relax. Be patient.
Yeah.
It's going to unfold.
Don't worry. You'll have plenty of time to podcast about this. Just lie back on the bench. Yeah. So then I go on to Grogu and the Frogs. Man, so many great beats. I mean, just for me, the beauty of that, we talked about it with the themes of, seeing Luke's gloved hand just slowly turn those peaceful eyes. Uh, but going back to the beginning of it, when they keep finding new and great things to do with that Grogu puppet, when the frog leaps and Grogu opens just one eye, and trying to play that game like, I'm meditating. I only opened one eye.
I love in that beat. My favorite thing of that beat is when he pulls that one-eyed frog closer to him. His head goes up and he starts to like chomp, like he's not quite there. He's like, it's just
he is literally nom nom nom.
Yeah,
yeah. He's doing an internet meme. He's smacking his mouth. He can already taste it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think perhaps one of my absolute favorite is Luke giving Grogu the little force hop help as they have that little casual conversation, just bouncing him along with the force. Man, if Luke Skywalker was real, I would pay him so much money to do that to me, to just give me little force hops.
I need it getting out of bed in the morning. No, the first time I thought I thought Grogu. I said Yoda. I thought Grogu was jumping, right? Because we just went through and like, oh nope. That's just even more adorable.
It's so adorable. What are some more for you?
I put down. I guess it is a Cobb. I do like. He's new, still a little bit jumpy, but just everything about Cobb. I guess I could mistake why a Wikipedia editor would call him elderly. He just has that look. He has the right kids these days, and I loved his vibe all the way through the episode. It really worked.
Yeah, he's new. Yeah. Another beat that I really liked that really shows that R2's really on board with everything. When Din insists on seeing Grogu, when Ahsoka's like, "Yeah, no, I mean, you can see him if you want," and Din's like, "Yeah, I want to," and R2's like, "Uh-oh," kind of noise. It's a very little thing, but it's like R2 is attuned to like, this guy's got issues.
Yeah, R2 knows.
Very funny.
R2 knows all.
Yeah. Another great Grogu moment when Luke says, "Let's see you jump," and he does that tiny hop. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, what they're being able to do with that, the puppet and the CGI, all the things are probably adding up to make this work is really impressive and just adorable. It's just the cutest thing ever. It's so hard not to squee when you're watching.
Yeah. Any more for you?
I did like the Jawa stuff you mentioned as well, but it just the Jawas, especially the relationship to Din, and those are the off-world Jawas I know, but just they've been through a lot too. Everything about them, they're just they're interesting. They're more. I've always kind of been obsessed with Jawas in a weird way, but just they're getting their due. Not as as powerfully as the Tuscans and everything, but there's stuff going on with the Jawas. I just love their humor. I love their joy. It's the souk of it all.
It really is. I wonder if they have a name for that ship, like they do for the egg. Suka. I like the major domo, even while captured, still trying to use red tape to defend himself when they're saying like, clearly things are going to go down because Mok Shay's left the planet. And Major Domo says, it was a scheduled vacation, actually. You've referred to this line, but my last two things are two more great Cobb Vanth lines of Din saying, "I haven't seen you since he gave up the armor. How have you been? More careful."
Right.
Really funny and setting up the tragedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I like when Din buys him a drink at his bar.
His own bar.
Yeah, or the bar of Freetown. But I really like a Cobb Vanth line. Like that's the thing with you, Mando. That big smile of yours lets you get away with anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
that
was great.
Any other moments that you wanted to call out?
None specific. Just a ton of whimsy, just a spirit of a good old wonder and whimsy all through it, and it really helped, really worked.
Yeah, absolutely, and just tonally very smooth throughout. Which brings us to talking about any director moments. Filoni back in the director's chair. Any directorial moments that jumped out at you that you particularly enjoyed?
I think going back to the Cad Bane thing, not to harp on it too much, but just the shot, the time it took to unfold, the tension, clearly Old West spaghetti Western, whatever kind of film reference you want to make, it was there. But it didn't come off. It came off as its own thing. And I think that really worked for me. And to find that kind of that tone through line, it connected, it was real, had an impact. And I think that was my favorite directed sequence of the show.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely great. There have been a lot of the kind of classic Western shots lately, so I feel like there was an effort to revitalize them and do some different angles. I really like the above angle where Cobb and Cad were facing off, but you kind of saw that most of the town there.
Yeah.
That really recentered what this was. That Cad was coming to shoot if he needed to, but intimidate in front of everybody. It really drove that home.
And by the way, I love I didn't catch your name, and no name given, right? True stranger from the desert. And again, taking the time, even with your own canon, to just be like, now if you don't know, you'll all figure out at some point. It's not for right now.
Wait for the thousands of articles and videos.
Yeah,
that will tell you. There are a couple of shots that I really liked. I liked that very purposeful shot around the N1 when Din was first getting out on the Jedi planet. So for just a moment, R2 was inside the droid port.
Yes.
And, it was one of those shots that was like, that's fun because it puts me in R2's head for a minute. Is R2 seeing that N1 and is he thinking about or remembering his own past?
Yeah, he's got to be thinking, wizard, look at that. I could fly one of those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've been in one of those. Yeah.
Also the connections. Yeah.
Yeah. I was loaded from below into one of those. Yeah. I really, really liked all throughout Book of Boba Fett, many points in Mando, there's been long shots of atmosphere to get you in the mood and kind of get your breath at the same pace of the show. There's those long shots of nature of the Jedi planet before seeing Grogu that I just thought were so great to kind of get you in the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then last thing for me is I just really love that shot at the end when Luke was presenting the choices when he initially holds up the Beskar chainmail vest to Grogu. And it's like a little fashion show where he holds it up perfectly. Oh, how Grogu would wear it.
Love that. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to?
I do. We did touch on it. I just want to take a moment, pay the respects. Garza Fwib, Jennifer Beals. If this is the end, and I'm on the side that says that that was not a damaged sanctuary. That was destroyed, gone, erased, along with the big meaning stuff you talked about and connecting it to Boba Fett, saying he protected but not being able to. She was really great. She was just really great all through this and just killing the moments and scenes she had. And even this final moment, not really saying much, but just her having that moment of knowing the real picture, knowing what's going on. And it's tragic. It's tragic as someone who tried to help move Tatooine past that place of violence to fall victim to it in any way, shape, or form was sad. But it's also just, I really love that character. I love the way she was used, and she'll part of Garza Fwib's legacy. If this is the only time she appears in Star Wars, is that collection of the memes of "You're a champion," that stuff that was going around.
Yeah, her speech to Chrysanthemum is just so great, so central to all these ideas. And I think for me, it was a huge tragedy, and I felt it because her performance has been amazing. That location has been amazing. It's evoked all these ideas of we can change. Her speech is all about change, but it also just reminded me that I think we are rewarded when we have patience. When we're watching those early episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and like, why do they keep coming back to the sanctuary? Like, well, because of this, because they want us to know these people and care about them. And it worked. Yeah. Two things for me. I want to fully acknowledge that I had a strong necklace theory. I hoped that the Mandalorian chains are not going to be chainmail, is everybody guessed quite accurately, but I thought it'd be fun if they were a necklace and the silver ball was on it. So I was dead wrong about that, but I'm so intrigued that the silver ball is still in play, right? That it's been such a symbol of the connection between Din and Grogu, and it has not been resolved. And obviously there's a lot of storytelling left to happen with that. But it also, it amused me. I was texting with a friend right after the episode, and my friend was like, come on, Luke, let him have both. And it occurred to me that, like, is that what Grogu is thinking of? Like, is there a third option? Could I get that silver ball? Because that's what I want.
That's what I want. With a fried frog. You don't even need to fry that frog. Just give me that frog.
I just want the silver ball. Come on.
Yeah. Love it.
Final thing for me that I want to be sure to mention, because so many people are having fun with this, that Din Djarin is slowly learning more about Star Wars, but the fact that he's mutuals with Luke and Boba, right? and that Luke and Boba have a relationship to each other, and he has no idea the significance is so fun. And like, particularly with Boba Fett, like,
Yeah,
obviously Luke knows who Boba Fett is and has
yeah.
had some significant interactions with him, but imagine, the way he's just saying, like, I'm looking for Skywalker. Like,
Yeah.
what, I guess that's a guy. I guess that's a guy I met. I'm looking Skywalker. The idea that Boba would be like, Skywalker, like,
Yeah.
that's the guy I was trying to kill when I fell into the Sarlacc and started all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, they fought in Obi-Wan's hut. Oh my God, there's so much there. I almost hope that gets mentioned right next week. Just
Yeah.
Boba Fett going, wait, you did what?
Yeah, I got to go see Skywalker again. What? Yeah, it's a fun thing to joke about. We'll see if there's anything there. We'll move on to predictions or hopes for next week. What do you got there?
Look, big old battle. I want that. I think this show's been building to that in a lot of ways thematically. It's been taking its time, and I think we could get rewarded with that. I know that's not going to be it, and because of that, I'd love to take some of the time to have some meaningful confrontations, meaningful moments, and last bits of connection and choices, and really, that being the driving point of why this was happening and why Boba Fett's taking the stand and what it means. And I'd love a reference or a call back to the Tuscans. I'd love all that. I just want to see it all come together and come home, and then get a big old giant Boba Fett rides a Rancor with a pulse rifle. Let's just dump all the figures on the ground, collect them all, and let's fight.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that big battle is coming. I think there is the possibility in the same frame to see Boba Fett riding a Rancor while Din Djarin floats with a jetpack wielding a Darksaber. It sounds like fan fiction that we would have written, right?
It sounds like everyone who makes reference to the Patton Oswalt, Parts and Rec thing. It has that feeling, but it's been so earned. I will die on that hill for this show. It has been so earned.
Absolutely earned. Other people have made this prediction, but I really feel like Fennec's line about like these bikers didn't take out Tuskens.
Yeah,
it's always felt like the Pikes are responsible, and now to see that Cad Bane is actively working with them, I think that could really heighten the conflict between Boba Fett and Cad Bane if Cad Bane personally killed the Tuskens.
Oh yeah. This could be the last stand of Cad Bane. Enjoy him while you can. Maybe, I don't know. That's not a prediction. Not even a hope. Just maybe a thought.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to see where Boba ends up. I really could see this, like I said, as really crystallize him into what kind of character he is, who he believes, what he believes in, and then deal with this sort of Mandalorian heritage as he maybe helps Bo-Katan and Din in the future. Or I also think it might work thematically for him to sacrifice himself to free Tatooine.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Very excited to see. I also think that there's, I think there's a lot, as we've talked about. I think Boba knows a little bit more than we, the audience, do still.
Yeah.
About his exact motivations and exactly. We know a lot about his personal motivations, that he wants to be a different kind of leader and lead with respect, not fear. But like his devotion to Tatooine and his kind of end game for Tatooine, if there is any sort of element of giving it back to the people in any way, shape, or form, what that is, I think that might be an interesting idea as well.
Yeah, could very well be. But man, we are in for a finale.
Big finale, and we will move to the finale of the very podcast we are doing right now. We always like to talk about what merch we would like based on this episode. There are a ton of great options. Ken, what merch do you want based on this chapter?
Yeah, we need a Cad Bane Halloween mask. It's so lifelike that it creeps you out. You wear it, hand out kids candy to the kids, and all the kids run away scared.
Oh, this is so scary. You don't even have any nostrils to look through. I like the line where he talked about sticking your nose in things, and when he doesn't have a nose.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I can smell the plastic. I would love a Cad Bane Halloween mask. I always want action figures, so I loved Luke's similar but different outfit with the black, but the more calm, like they're it's like a Jedi ascot robe.
Yeah.
That wonderful fold. So I think oftentimes I want action figures that aren't going to be made. I think that one's going to be made. I want Luke Skywalker in teaching robes that comes with 24 frogs.
Oh yeah, floating frogs. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Floating frogs. Anything else for you?
No, a lot of figures to pull from this. And there's already, I'm seeing some of the Boba Fett pre-orders, all that kind of stuff. Cobb Vanth now with battle wounds. Give me the Freetown playset. Give me it all.
Yeah, I want Cobb Vanth with a Comtech chip that says "Think it through." That'd be great. Last one for me, back in the second season of Mandalorian, there was kind of this fun hubbub because Williams Sonoma released those Grogu cookies for $50. So now I want Crate and Barrel to sell a custom Mando bamboo waiting bench for like $5,000, grossly overpriced.
I'll put that in the backyard right now.
All right, that is our big look. I'm proud of us that we came in under 3 hours, Ken, on this massive episode of Book of Boba Fett. But for now, do you want to let people know where they can find us?
I'd love to. And if you just kind of finding us because of this big episode, welcome. We're the ForceCenter podcast feed. You can connect with us on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. We're on Facebook at ForceCenter Podcast. Merch is available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. If you want to get an audio book, you can do so on us by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. A podcast available in a lot of different spots. We're housed here on Acast, but also Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and more. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. You can follow me at Ken Napzok or go to my website, kennapzok.com. Joseph, where can they go for you?
Yeah, you can find me on the social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is at Joseph Scrimshaw, and you can check out all my other comedy adventures on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Grogu and his choices, this has been the Book of Boba Fett Report.